Hey, we're live, guys. We're live.
Got you.
Yo, what it is? Mic check 1 2 1 2. Mic check 1 2 1 2. How's everybody doing out there? Hold on 1 second. All right, I see Siobhan on the screen. I don't hear you, sir.
I'm here.
All right, cool. I hear you and see you. I don't see the chat though. We're working on something new here. Let's see. All right, cool. I see the chat here. Cool. What's going on with you, man? How you doing?
I'm good, man. How you?
I'm doing great, man. All right. Well, I did want to start the show off. I mean, you might as well come on in now. You know what I'm saying? We getting everybody in the room. Thumbs up in the chat. I did want to start off the show, man, talking about the anniversary of Dr. Dre's 2001. I know we got a whole lot to cover today. We're gonna talk a little bit about Shine. We're gonna talk a little bit about this the portion of Dame Dash's Roc-A-Fella shares being sold. We're going to talk about this Beyoncé halftime show. We're going to talk about this upcoming Drink Champs interview with Dr. Dre and Snoop. And we're going to talk about, did I say Beyonce's halftime? And we might talk some music too. But yeah, I did want to start off the show talking about the 25th anniversary of Dr. Dre's classic album, Chronic 2001. One of the great masterpieces of his time. And I've always felt like that record was pivotal in launching Aftermath Entertainment. And we saw what Aftermath Entertainment was able to bring us in the upcoming years with, Eminem's incredible career, 50 Cent's incredible career at the game, and all the way up to Kendrick Lamar. For me, all of that starts with 2001. Death Row Records, and we're going to talk about Death Row Records in a second too, but Death Row Records starts with the Chronic. And that's one of the greatest record label legacies of all time. I do want to have a conversation about what legacy is greater, Death Row or Aftermath. I do think it's more of a conversation than people want to think. But I do think the 2001 is so pivotal. And I think it does get the level of recognition because the records are so big, right? Next episode's huge to this day. Still, DRE has gotten larger over time, in my personal opinion. And when we talk about, Eminem and his legacy, one of the records, can you see me, Mike? Hold on. What is going on? Are you guys able to see me? Hold on. Okay. All right. Let's see what's going on here. Hold on. I know we got way too many people in here to start this over. Let me see.
Yeah.
Hold on, you hear me, or you just see me?
I think she's trying to see if you see the comments. She's trying to see if you see the comments.
Oh, yeah. I do see the comments. I mean, I do see the comments.
I can't see you, Mike.
Do you guys see me? Because I'm looking on the other screen and I don't see you either, Siobhan. I think that's something we got to work on. But it's as far as on the broadcast, I see me. Okay. Everybody says they see me. And when you get brought to the screen, I think we see each other. We're working on a new program, guys. We're going to get this thing together. But yeah. Anyway, 2001, man, it's so pivotal, man. And I think it gets the recognition it deserves. But for many, and I think Dr. Dre included, and I don't know if this was asked of him on Drink Champs. There's so many things you could ask somebody like a Dr. Dre. But it feels like 2001 has become the beginning, I don't want to say the beginning of his legacy, but the hallmark of Dr. Dre's legacy. I feel like even when we look at the performances that have happened in recent time, and when I say recent, I'm talking about like Coachella, when he brought Tupac out, or even the Super Bowl performance. It feels like we're getting stuff from 2001 more than we're getting things from the Chronic. And I get it because I think the Chronic is, some gangster shit in a way that 2000 kind of isn't. It is, but it isn't. It's more on some next level stuff sonically. I remember when that album dropped, not to date myself, but it was my senior year in high school. And when that album dropped, there was nothing else anybody was talking about. Like, that was it. That was one of those, like, you gotta go hear this album. Because sonically, nothing sounded like it. And it sounded next level. You put that CD in your car, it's like, I know when I was testing out headphones and stuff, that would be the album I play. Everything is crisp. Everything is clear. The vocals are clear. And in hip hop, you have some well-engineered stuff, and hip-hop is more about, how hard it was beating in your car, beating in your headphones, or whatever. But this was just something else. Like, the quality of the sound. I even believe the quality of the sound from that album became the hallmark that led us up to the Beats by Dre and the Beats by Dre brand being about quality of sound. So 2001 is incredibly important. And not to mention that, people want to erase or rearrange history sometimes, but the Aftermath album was before that. And this was a comeback album. This was an album where Dre had something to prove. And if you remember his verse on Hello from Ice Cube, featuring MC Ren and Dr. Dre, he's talking about, did I fall off? Did I have you ripping every chronic post on your wall off? Because I put away the salt off. It was like everything was about coming back. I know when we interviewed Chris the Glove Taylor, he said that the first song that he heard, or the first time he heard him, and it was in '97, and he said it was Forgot About Dre. And so, with that being said, that was the narrative. That was the notion. Forgot About Dre is a comeback song. So 2001 is a comeback album, and I honestly feel like it's one of the best comeback albums in hip hop history. It has to be. It has to be one of those moments that, you had somebody who was big time. The stakes were incredibly high, and he had to deliver, and he delivered very, very big. And for that, I think 2001, even though it lives in the shadow of The Chronic, the first one, and The Chronic's a debut, so it's a little different. I think that it should hold a special place in hip hop history because it's an altering moment. It is a pivotal point. It's a turning moment, a turning point, for hip hop's greatest producer. We can debate that part later. But I think I would argue that in many instances, an argument could be made that 2001 is just as important as The Chronic. Oh yeah. He doesn't want to perform The Chronic because it's death row. He doesn't get money from it. I mean, listen, we'll talk about that in a second. But I mean, they say that Snoop owns death row. So how does that work out now? I know that when it comes to The Chronic, and again, I don't know anybody's personal business dealings, but I have Apple Music. I've had Spotify before. It seems like everybody that Dr. Dre does business with, Dr. Dre and Jimmy Iovine, they're able to kind of pull The Chronic or put The Chronic on different platforms however they please. Now, one would have to remember that when we're talking about Death Row Records, it's distributed by Interscope Records. And Interscope is Jimmy Iovine. So Jimmy Iovine and Dr. Dre being business partners, it's hard to believe that Dr. Dre has no say-so in The Chronic when we've seen The Chronic be removed from platforms and The Chronic be on platforms that Dr. Dre's doing business with. So, I mean, like I said, I don't know, but just based on what you see in the optics from those standpoints, you would have to believe that Dr. Dre does have some stake in The Chronic more so than anybody else. He treats The Chronic almost like Jay-Z treats Reasonable Doubt. He moves this record however he needs to move it in the moment. But even with that being said, I think that there is some validity to that. I think that Death Row may have been a point in his life that he doesn't really want to reflect on too much, whereas 2001 is more of a redemption story. 2001 is something that he could say was his. Like NWA, that's him and Easy. Death Row, that's him and Suge, and some other players involved. I think when you talk about Aftermath and that whole movement, that's something where Drake could say, yo, this is mine. And I think that he holds 2001 to a high regard because of that. And I think that he wants 2001 to be his magnum opus because of that. And it could be. It's a great album. Now, if we want to get down to the album itself, we want to sit here and talk the album, we want to sit here and talk Turkey. I think that the first half of the album is blockbuster as a hip hop album gets. It starts to falter after next episode, but it falters based on its own standards. So if you were to sit here and isolate those records like Bang Bang and LA Niggas and stuff like that and put it on another album, isolate it, shoot, Hoes a Housewife, all of that stuff, these are really, really dope songs. But when you're comparing it to The Watcher, still DRE, Next Episode, and records like that, Explosive, it's a little different. So it's great end to end, but the top part of this album is so great that it makes you feel like this album kind of falters. I think our first listen, if we're talking about upon initial release, I would give 2001, I would give it 4.5, easy. The only thing keeping it from 5 is not keeping that level of intensity. And one could argue that, subject matter is limited. But again, even when we're talking about that, these guys made some of the greatest music ever made. And everybody showed up on this album. We did a post on According to Hip Hop, and we normally do this like whenever this album's celebrating an anniversary. Like, who is the MVP of 2001? And you know what, Siobhan, you in the room?
Yes, sir.
I would love to hear your perspective on this. What's going on with you, sir? How you doing?
I'm well, man. How you doing?
I'm doing great. You might not be able to see me, but I'm sure the people will be able to see both of us because I'm looking at my other screen over here and it's rocking. So
I can see
if that
you.
throws you off, you can pull up your phone, put it on mute, whatever you want to do to make sure that, you know what I'm saying, none of that's throwing you off.
No, good here. I can see you just fine.
All right, cool. Perfect. You're a professional. That's what's up. Oh, yeah. I see what's going on. Let me go ahead and put this on my screen. Boom. There it is. I see you now. All right. So who would you say is the MVP of 2001 by Dr. Dre?
The collaborators, man. There were so many people involved in Hands in the Chronic 2001, and the collaborative efforts is the same thing as what we'll say for the Chronic,
Right.
There's so many hands in a pot, and that's how Dre works. He brings these people in, and they're kind of like specialists in what they do. I mean, Mailman, you had Jay, right? Forgot about Dre, Snoop per usual,
Jay wrote still DRE.
Still DRE,
Yeah.
still DRE, correction, yeah. So, you have people involved in the album that had so many hands in it that contributed to this being a great project. You had, I don't know how Devin the Dude or Exhibit's involvement was on a writing point, but even them just being on the album, one of my favorite songs on the album, Explosive, Devin the Dude. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Explosive. That was 9. What was his name? Hold on. Devin was on Fuck You.
I could have sworn Devin the Dude was on Explosive. He had the last verse.
Nah, clapping their hands, stomping their feet every now and then. They put their mouth on. He does actually sound like Devin, but nah, that's
Devin the Dude. You can tell me all these years I thought that was Devin the Dude, and that's not Devin the Dude.
Nah, hey. Devin's on. He's on Fuck You, and he's like, "You got the number. Yes. It's on you to make the call. I come through, help you redecorate your walls." That record. Who was the person that is on? Yeah, 6'2". 6'2" is on Explosive.
That's my God. All those years I thought that was Devin the Dude.
You know who was originally on Explosive? I think it was Royce. I think Royce 5'9" was on there, and Dre took him off or something like that.
That's crazy. So, hey, you guys get it live, dog. Like but yeah, dog, Explosive is my favorite joint off that album. But like right. The collaborators, man, the collaborators are the MVP. We know that like Dre, he works where he's pulling people in, you know what I'm saying, from different people that's just associated with the camp, whether it's Exhibit, whether it's Mailman, whether it's RBX, there's so many people that's involved in the background of it. I think those was the real winners of 2001 is the collaborators and the people behind the scenes as well. So the people in the music, I think it set a new tone for what Dre had to deliver, and not only from the point of a producing standpoint, but the next focus of what Aftermath is from that point on, and that was like kind of another coming out show for M as well.
Oh yeah, I think that was very important for M. before I get to my MVP, I will say Exhibit showed up on the. Everybody showed up, but this was a breakthrough moment for Exhibit. For a lot of people, we just knew Exhibit from like the 40 Days, 40 Nights album, like, songs like Paparazzi and then What You See Is What You Get. And then the world got to know Exhibit a little bit on Bitch Please. And so that was kind of like his introductory, if you will, into, the world of Dr. Dre and Snoop. And then when it came time to step up on 2001, I mean, he let his presence be known on What's the Difference. And
oh my God.
He did
I know a lot of people.
I think he has the best verse on that song, in my opinion.
Too. A lot of people like to say M, but M was just saying crazy shit. Like his verse was hard.
Yeah, Eminem did his thing on there too. But why you try to perpetrate play with it, never knew about the next level until Dre did it. Play with it while you motherfuckers babysit it. I slapped the critics like an overhand right from Riddick. Whoa.
Hey man,
my bitches be catching feelings. Corrupt showed up on the album on Explosive, of course. And I love this verse on what's this? Let's Get High. That beat is underrated too. But I think Snoop is the most important piece. I'll never get away from that. I think Snoop's the most important piece of this whole thing. You needed him on Still DRE. They needed him on Explosive. I mean, they said that the first single was supposed to be Explosive, and not Explosive, excuse me. Next Episode. You got me thinking about Explosive. They said the first single was supposed to be Next Episode. And it makes sense because, the end of G thing and like, let's chill to the next episode. So that was the plan. But Jimmy Iovine was like, yo, y'all don't have a single yet. And then, and then here's Still DRE. Now, I do think Still DRE is the best song on the album, but I think Still DRE is one of the best hip hop songs ever made. So I don't know how fair that is.
On an album? I mean, it's easy. I don't know. It's easy to say it because it was a single. We're so familiar with it. But the best song on the album, I don't know, man.
I mean, Explosive is right there, too. Jermaine Johnson with the Super Chat says, 2001 would be even highly regarded if Dr. Dre didn't name it the Chronic 2001. It's automatically not allowed to live on its own without the Chronic comparison. Well, technically it's called 2001, but we all know what that is. I agree with that. Snoop is the most important piece, but I'm going to say this. I think that Eminem is the MVP of 2001. And I think Hitman is a very strong second because Hitman is doing a lot of work on there. And obviously Mailman as well. But the writing that Eminem was able to do for Dre on that album, I think was very, very important. The Watcher is very important. And you can hear Eminem's lyricism all throughout that album. And the appearances that M made on that album, I think, are extremely important. So yeah, I think that he's the MVP of that album, outside of Dre, of course. But yeah, the writing that he was able to execute on there is very, very important. Now, I don't know who did more writing, him or Hitman. I'm gonna have to go back and listen with an ear, listening for ghostwriters. But I know the standout verses sounded very Eminem-like.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I say the MVP has got to be the collaborators, man. There was so many hands in the pot and it's cooking. It's like when Dre summons you, he summons you. And that's what it seemed like. It seemed like that was another joint effort on making a great album. I mean, I even remember watching the concert DVD they put out when it was like it was an anger management tour. And it was like that's when West Side Connection.
Are you talking about the Up in Smoke tour?
Up in Smoke, yeah. And I seen that, and they, M, and then was it Up in Smoke? It was Up in Smoke, or was it Anger Management?
I think that was Up in Smoke when you talk about West Side Connection when Cube and them went out with him.
Yeah,
that was huge. That Let Me Ride version is crazy. And
when they were performing those records, and you see how big it was just like, that was at that time. I mean, I remember when he went back and he did Let Me Ride, and he had Truth Hurts come out there and sing the intro, and they come out on the rider, and everybody went crazy, like You know, that was prime M too. So yeah, man, like just that whole time frame, bro. And here's another thing. I feel like 2001. I'm not looking at that as a sequel to Chronic, man. I kind of feel like that's just an album. First of all, it came out so many years later, but that
Yeah.
album in comparison to that, I just feel like it stands on its own, bro. I don't think like it overshadows one or the other. I just really feel like that's a standalone body of work with its own flavor that's just evolutionized from the Chronic. You know,
Mike Williams with the super chat says, "What would you say is Jay's signature song? Like how New York State of Mind is Nas's signature song? What do you think? I have a thought. Huh.
and why state of mind, where I'm from.
You think that's his signature song? I don't know. I mean, I think for most people,
I
they would
mean,
say
when
"Hard
we
Knock
talk
Life" would be his signature song.
the
Um,
timing is the thing. Like when I listen to New York State of Mind, it's Illmatic. It was kind of like a soundtrack to New York at that moment, you know. But the grit and the rawness of that record in comparison, what I would say to that would be Where I'm From by Jay. But I
I
guess
think,
if you want to talk about universally being compared to it, it have to be something later on in Jay's career as opposed to early in his career.
yeah, I see somebody say PSA. I can agree with that. I
Yeah.
can agree with PSA being Jay-Z's signature song. Although maybe I'm a bit biased because I think it's one of his best, if not his best song. I think "You Don't Know" tells you everything you need to know about the man, and I think that it is. I think it's his signature sound too. Like to me, when I first heard "You Don't Know," I mean, I could be wrong. Is that not the beginning of that whole Just Blaze and Jay-Z sound anyway? Like
Um,
I know they worked together before that, because before that it was stuff like, Stick to the Script. Just Blaze did that. I
you,
believe Just Blaze did You, Me, Her, and Him. No, Bink did that, I believe. But
you
yeah, I
know,
feel like You Don't Know is the beginning of that sound that we identify with Jay. Even that sound that's on PSA.
so the thing about like You Don't Know, and we're talking about like the Just Blaze sound. I can't really say Just Blaze sound because it's to me it's your best Kanye sound. You know, we know
Ooh,
it's
Kanye
not
and Just
sound
are
like
slightly different in that regard. I
yeah,
mean,
Just Records don't sound those are not regular sounding Just Records when you listen to You Don't Know. That sounds like a
yeah.
Kanye produced record when you really think about it. Around
Hmm.
that time frame.
Listen, you know me. I think that yeah, Just Blaze did. This is
Mhm.
how I think the blueprint came together, and I've said this before. I think that the blueprint is the framework of Kanye West and the stuff that Kanye was working on, right? Because clearly some of those beats went to other people. That soulful sound was the framework of what the blueprint was going to be, or what the blueprint was supposed to be. I think Jay or whoever went to Just Blaze and was like, "This is the theme. Give me stuff that sounds like this." So yes, I do think that that was kind of Just Blaze's impression or impersonation of Kanye, in a sense that he was able to kind of find his sound within that. And I only say that because you listen to the Just Blaze produced stuff before that, it sounds nothing like that. And it, like somebody saying in the chat, that kind of became the
Yeah.
Roc-A-Fella sound, if you will. But if we're talking about the soulful nature of what Kanye brought to the table, I think you listen to Heart of the City and then you listen to You Don't Know. The only
Yeah.
thing they have in common is that they are soul samples, but I think that the way Just Blaze approached his soul samples were slightly different than the way that Kanye approached his soul samples. Like Kanye approached his soul samples with all the soul left in them, whereas Just Blaze kind of focused on heavy drums and big stadium sound.
Yeah, it had a lot of a depth to it as far as like the
Yeah,
sound acoustics of it and everything. Yeah.
it's
It's kind of
powerful music, like Dipset said. Like it's powerful music, and I think that the powerful shit that Jay was saying was being backed by the powerful soundtrack that Just Blaze gave him on You Don't Know. I think it's a perfect song. Listen, if somebody says PSA is his signature song, I get it. I think PSA, excuse me, is actually bigger than You Don't Know, which is crazy to think because it wasn't like that at the time. But You Don't Know is just everything, man. Like it's like that talk that's
I
who
guess
Jay-Z is.
I guess when people like give me give me that question, what's a signature song, but they say New York State of Mind for Nas, I guess I'm thinking about the subject matter and the grittiness of that record. And that's why I was saying more so where I'm from. But if we're talking about signature songs, and it's one of the two of what you mentioned. I agree.
Well, what would you say is like, I mean, since we're on that and we'll get back around, but what would you say is like a signature song for Outkast, a group like that? I mean, that's a tricky question because they changed so much.
Their sounds always elevated to the next thing. Like that early Outkast is not the Outkast that the world knows. That we became to know. Because for me, like Elevators, or when I hear like that international play, not the international players ball, but the other one, the all the players playing.
Oh yeah, Players Ball.
Yeah, players ball. That
Yeah.
joint, and that sound is different from the sound that we heard later on with Outkast. So it's so many airs because even that sound, and you got Rosa Parks. We got, it's so many different records, man. It's just like, I would say like that early sound was that real Dungeon Family feel. It still has that Goody influence, and later on, that's when that production kind of grew, and you got more of those mainstream records from it. Like the Bombs Over Baghdad and Miss Jackson or whatnot. So it's like it's phases with them. I noticed.
It is.
So it depends on your era. You have to pick a era.
And Rosa Parks. I think Rosa Parks is a good choice because again, you got the rap in there, and there's a lot of stuff going on in Rosa Parks, right? You got the Southern soulfulness there. You have the hook that's kind of singy-songy there. You got the bars that's there. You got the live instrumentation with the harmonica, the breakdowns and all that, the song structure. Those are things that Cast is. But for me, I would say, like, if somebody dropped down from outer space and it's like, yo, tell me about this group Outkast and what they're about, I might play Bombs Over Baghdad because I think it articulates their ability to take chances. The rapping is definitely there. The just being outside the box and being who they are as a collective, it gives you everything that this group's about. It gives you the hyper speed of it all. The rhymes are there, the production, being able to be different, taking chances. I don't know. I think that might be their magnum opus.
I would say I actually agree with your first one. I feel more Rosa Parks. I feel like it gives an overall introduction to how it was for them then, and it still shows a rapping ability that you've seen later on. I feel like Bombs Over Baghdad was such a unique record compared to the rest of their catalog that I feel like Rosa Parks, you could stick it in there. If they were to come out with that later, it is just there, and from where it was then, it stays there. I feel like it's like one of those universal records that's that real Outkast sound, and it flexes their lyrical ability with them being different with those type of beats, as a part of like B.O.B, like Bombs Over Baghdad. I don't know another record like that.
It doesn't fit on anything. Yeah.
That
is interesting though, because Rosa Parks is one of the few Outkast records that could fit on multiple Outkast albums.
And I can't say that like Bombs Over Baghdad.
That's true. I don't even know if Rosa Parks would fit on ATLians, but it wouldn't be weird. But you know what I'm saying? Like it would. I do think this. I've never liked the song ATLians like that. And I do think that if the song Rosa Parks was in the place of ATLians, for the people who don't know, throw your hands in the air, I think it makes that album better automatically.
Mm-hmm.
Jermaine Johnson with the Super Chat says, where I'm from is the reason why hip hop even today still discusses a big three and who's in it. It started something. After that, the big three became a thing. That is a good point.
Yeah.
Jay put himself in the conversation. Now, I know he probably was, in the conversation up top, but, as far as everywhere else, he wasn't really in that conversation like that. But I guess he hipped us on to where he was going. Speaking of which, I mean, I want to go to two different places. I
Okay,
mean, we can go either. We could talk about this Shine interview that was on the Breakfast Club. Speaking of somebody putting themselves in places, or we could talk about this New York State buying Dame Dash's Roc-A-Fella share. Since we were talking about the Roc-A-Fella family and the Roc-A-Fella side.
yeah, we could talk about Dame to keep it on par,
Okay,
man.
we'll keep it on Roc-A-Fella. One of the things that DJ Envy did say on that Shine interview that we're going to get to in a second, he was talking about how Puff Daddy and the family, they sold this whole notion that guys were family. And I think that that's where, when we talk about these crews breaking up in hip hop, why it becomes so devastating to guys who, the Beanie Sigels of the world, the State Properties of the world, because they were built that this was family, when at the end of the day, it was business. You know what I'm saying? And I think in that whole Jay and Dame split, and I say those two specifically, because, Kareem's been kind of still a part of things. I think a lot of people felt that they needed to pick sides. And I hate that it had come down to the point that we're at right now where, Dame's shares were up for auction, if you will, and the state of New York purchased them. Can you kind of, I guess, break down how some of those things transpired?
Like, I'm still trying to figure out how this goes. So it was an option for it. Dame has always spoke about it. That's why he's trying to get people to buy the stake, which is the third half split of Reasonable Doubt. So he's been trying to recruit, been trying to throw in these incentives. Oh, you get a Roc-A-Fella chain, all this shit.
And New York get the Roc-A-Fella chain.
So I was scratching my head on that. I was like, why would the state of New York buy this? Or out of, and I seen a Dame clip from a part when he was talking about, individuals that bid. He said Drake gave 6 million, bid at 6 million, then he disappeared, and then he's going on basically kind of like mad that other people didn't get in on them. Like, how you gonna get mad because somebody didn't want to buy somebody else's shit? Like,
at the end of the day, if it was for sale and it needed to be sold, like you said, I think that the victory here is that it was sold, regardless of who bought it, right?
I mean, Dame, it's so funny because Dame tells in this new interview or this new clip how much Reasonable Doubt was when you kind of break it down, but then when he was selling it, he was overselling it. So I think right. Dame is disappointed that what it sold for is not enough to really cover all of his debt. I don't know if that leaves him debt free exactly. I don't know how much exactly what were the numbers that it sold for, but I think it didn't cover everything and what was needed to get him out completely out the hole. But I got to confirm that. I don't know if that's truly accurate or not. But long story short, when we're discussing Dame in this whole situation, it's like I found it interesting that the state of New York bought it. I thought that was kind of odd. But the thing that is kind of funny is with the state of New York having that, I think that also grants a grand opportunity for Jay to go back and
Jay's gonna have it
back. And I think that's what the next step is gonna be. I think Jay is gonna buy it from the state of New York, and there you go. You got your other stuff.
That's a done deal. At this point, I don't know Dame Dash, and I respect Dame Dash to the highest because he's been a part of hip hop history. His mentality is inspiring, and we all make mistakes. Nobody's perfect, but Dame just didn't want to kiss the ring. It still doesn't want to kiss the ring. And I don't know, Jay's a competitive guy. We talked about You Don't Know. We talked about, these records there, this vibrato that Jay gives off. He's about winning. You know what I'm saying? And he's in pole position and he's gonna play until it's checkmate. I think at this point, man, it should have just sold it to him outright. You know what I'm saying? Like,
it's a third of his album.
Huh?
It's a third of his debut album. I mean, it's not something that I feel like was gonna put him back in a place where it want to be. I guess he wanted to climb him out of that depth that he had, but I mean, I guess if he's disappointed that he's not fully out of it, that's a him problem. But as far as that alone, I feel like, I mean, bro, you played yourself with the whole rollout of that whole thing in the first place. That's number one. Number two, I just don't understand. He made it seem like Jay kind of like shitted on him being able to sell it a little bit with his tactics in business. But I think he also played a role of shitting on how much is worth like that as far as people want to do business with you when everything circling around that shit was tied to some drama. So it's like, I don't think nobody want to be on the other hand of bad business with dealing with Jay on the negative side of it. I really
exactly. That's the thing. It's like this thing has become messy, right? This is family.
Yeah.
We're just talking about that, right? Nobody wanted to jump in here and get in the way of this. Like, it's like, listen, I have nothing to do with this. You know what I mean? And it's automatically not, you're automatically not going to get voting rights, right? Because Jay and Biggs are probably going to vote you out in damn near every situation possible. So you're not going to really have any voting rights. So most people will be like, listen, I'm not getting in the way of that. That's something that's going on over there. Now, I do think that Jay has always made it very clear. It's been very vocal about how much reasonable doubt means to him and how much it means to his career, his legacy. And I think that he's upped the value of reasonable doubt throughout his career. Starting with Volume 2, he's always bigged up reasonable doubt, made it more of a rarity, a piece of art in that sense. And I think that what it has become, as far as its worth now, is based on the work that Jay-Z has done throughout his career. You know what I'm saying? So I think that that's one of the reasons why it means so much to him. But I do feel like Dame has kind of used reasonable doubt as like that one thing that he has on Jay. And I think that that has run out. And and at this point, you should have just been like, yo, man, go ahead. Just, I don't want it anymore. If you don't want it anymore, and it means that much to the other person, go ahead and just sell it to him, man. Like, and I think that would have been a step forward in possibly mending that relationship as well. Like, listen, man, you know I've held my portion of this for so long. I really don't have anything to do with it. And it shouldn't have gotten to the point where you're in, financial woes and damn near forced to sell it either. I guess that already puts a bad taste in someone's mouth. But again, I think that's just years and years of trying to hold that over Jay's head. You know what I'm saying? Michael Williams with the Super Chat says, after Jay buys the rights back to Reasonable Doubt, I'm hoping that he reissues the vinyl for the 30th anniversary in 2026. We need that. I believe he will. He's going to roll out something huge for it. I think he's just waiting for that moment.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. I feel like Dame played himself. He's continuing to play himself. It's sad how he's going out. It seemed like everybody has moved on but him.
It shouldn't feel like that. I think the reason why, like you said, that it feels that way is because he's hanging on to this stuff. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, like if you want to sell your stake in, if you want to get this off, then get that off. But all these extra interviews you're doing and the shit that you're throwing them under the bus and all that other stuff, I don't know how that helps your case in anything. You know what I'm saying? All it does is solidify the fact that people don't want to be attached to you. Even when Bleak has Bleak has been very neutral. If Bleak step in, he has to say, "Hey, Dame, some of this shit you're saying is bullshit." Then that says something, bro. Like, I just think that Dame got to move on, man. Everybody else done found their way of moving on, unless there are some people that didn't have a chance to speak to their situation in Roc-A-Fella. They still see old Roc-A-Fella niggas speaking about those situations. Like, everybody has moved on, man. Like, everybody.
Right, let's speak to the narrative. Like, not to interrupt you. Let's speak to the narrative and be fair here. Let's speak to the narrative that Jay did Dame dirty. What do you think about that notion? And do you believe that somewhere down the line, or at least with the initial split, Jay did Dame dirty?
I think Jay was out for Jay. His whole move to go to Def Jam, and he spoke to it in an interview with he did recently with Gayle King. His move to go to Def Jam was to buy his masters back. Def Jam had his masters. He made a money move to go do that. You could see the dynamic switch of corporate J in the direction where Dame was going. No knock to Dame. Dame cared for the art.
Since you're on that, I have to say this. Did you see the paperwork that Kanye put out on Twitter that time showing that Jay basically sold parts of Kanye's masters to get his masters?
I don't even know. I don't even know to that shit. And you know what's funny? All right, I don't even know what that was about and what Kanye was going about in that time. And it's funny he's talking about, you know, shady music stuff, because what he did to Big Sean is, you know, you're a person that does shady business dealings as well. Like,
no, hold on. When Big Sean complained, Kanye let him go.
Yeah, but Big Sean also said he owes him millions. Big Sean also said he owes him millions, though.
I mean, listen, I'm not trying to be funny. I like Big Sean, but I mean, we all know that Big Sean is he wouldn't be who he is as an artist without Kanye West. I mean, not to say that that means that he owes him whatever, but it's like that Lox and Diddy thing. Like, you became a name overnight because you were associated with Diddy, and you knew that you were attaching yourself to the largest artist in the world at that time. There's a cost for that. There's a promo cost for that. Not everybody's getting that opportunity to sit there and get on records like Click and get on records with Jay-Z and Kanye West in their prime out the gate. That's not something that just comes for free for an artist. You know what I'm saying? Like, it is what it is. I mean, I hear what Big Sean's saying, but there's no telling how much was put into Big Sean for him to break somewhat even or break as an artist either.
When we really look at this, man, when we're talking about now, if artists are still getting jerked, it's on the artists. You have too many examples of what not to do or stuff within business for artists to still be getting jerked, and that being the same story now. I still don't know what the full ins and outs was about the Big Sean stuff. As far as Jay stuff and people saying, oh, he did dirty or whatever, at the end of the day, did Jay make moves out self-serving? Yes. But in the long scheme of things, does it seem like the moves he made was the right choice? Yeah. But further and further, I think Dame's issue, when you look at it later on, I think is more so off the fact that I don't think he could do it without Jay. And I think that's what I understand as brothers, y'all built something or whatever, but it's like, I feel like there's still a sense of, man, only if I had Jay here, we could have kept doing this and doing, you know, he had the same opportunity to go move on and do stuff by himself. Artists chose to go with Dame. You know, the shit was, you know, so it's just like, at the end of the day, yes, Jay did a self-serving move. He did what was best for him. And, you know, at the end of the day, people could say it was dirty or whatever, but I don't see nothing dirty when both of you guys left still being rich. Whatever you did with your shit after that is on you.
Jay-Z is an elite talent, right? And, you know, it's very difficult for anybody, I guess, like you said, who's made their whole executive career based on being attached to such an elite talent. It's like Bill Belichick, man, when, you know what I'm saying, with the success he had with Tom Brady. After Tom Brady's gone and it's time to cultivate another quarterback, you're not going to get another Tom Brady walking through the door. You know what I mean? And I think that part of it, Jay had the upper hand. And I do think that both of them were trying to prove that they could do it without one another. But Jay's a talent. Jay's an artist. So he can go out there and do his artist thing and make things happen. He can also recruit other artists based on the fact that he is an artist. And, you know, he was able to keep Kanye as well. That's a big, you know, that was a big takeaway also. And he had Def Jam and had the presidency. Now, I think we looked at it a different way when we were kids, when it was all happening. But looking back on it now and listening to like a neutral party and somebody like a Kareem Biggs, who was the third member here, from my understanding, business was done. They sold the company. You know what I'm saying? They sold the company in 2003, I believe it was. And I think that's what the retirement was about. It was like, okay, well, we're going to go ahead and close this chapter off with this Roc-A-Fella thing, and I'm going to go off and do my thing. And, you know, Biggs did the same thing. And I think with Dame, he wanted to continue to move as a unit, and he wouldn't let Jay just go out there and do his own thing. He wanted to continuously be attached to some things, and I think that's where it started to look like it was dirty. And I think that Jay wanted to separate himself. I mean, he probably had been wanting to separate himself for a while, but they played out the contract, played it all the way out until the company was sold, and everybody went and did their own things. I just think that it's similar to like Tribe, right? Everybody agreed they were going to go do their own things, but everybody didn't feel the same way about going out there doing their own thing.
I mean, you can see that riff even when you hear Cam now talking about he just did a show or something. He recently talked about, he's answering questions and he's talking about, his beef with Jay and where it stemmed from. You could see the riff in that story of Dame really not communicating. Like, it went from, okay, you brought Cam in, but then next thing you know, you're talking about Cam is going to be the VP of Roc-A-Fella, and Jay is like, what the fuck? Like, what I'm saying? If y'all supposed to be
that story, I feel a different way about. I do think that was personal on Jay's end, because based on what they're saying in the court documents, Dame couldn't just do that alone. It took a majority vote. So it sounds like if Cam got that position, sounds like Dame and Kareem had to okay that. You know what I mean? And that gets thrown on Dame like it was just him.
Did he officially ever get that position though? I mean, I still know
that was official, I believe. Yeah.
So if that was the case, that makes sense. But on the flip side, that's just, you're not talking to your, if you guys are in here and there's a brother and y'all doing business and this is where it is, shouldn't that communication have been had? And the way Cam was like, yo, I've been jerked before. I came in here and I kind of like, we were proactive. We were moving. People, we have all this space. There was no offices. We took the closet space. We made that offices, Dipset. So it made it look like it was a hostile takeover when it was really somebody that was hungry. And then the people, one's not communicating with the other one. And then the ego is getting involved. Because even without...
agree, though, that Cam was a positive addition to Roc-A-Fella.
Yes,
and
definitely.
I would say the same thing for Kanye. I think that there was a direction thing going on here, and especially with Kanye. I don't think Jay ever felt the direction that Kanye was going in, and that Kanye fit the mold of what he felt like a Roc-A-Fella artist was supposed to be. Because Jay was trying to put his chips in on Petey Crack.
Man, if Jay was really, then this is the thing. Like, if Jay was as bad as people say, then like there's a bunch of other dickhead moves he could have did. Like Cam said that, like even throughout their little beef, when there's something that needed to be signed, Jay was still signing it. You know what I'm saying? That came out of Cam's mouth. So do I think the moves he made was self-serving? Do I think it was all for self-preservation in the grand scheme of things? Yes, and you could tell. But whatever moves come on, man. Roc-A-Fella been broke up for how many years? For you to be in this position that you're in, Dame, it's totally your fault. You can't blame Jay, nobody else. And it seems like
and I think that in the grand scheme of things, Jay is his own person, and again, he's entitled to his own mistakes as well. Like Jay is entitled to do things, for himself, and he shouldn't feel the weight of, I got to think about everybody else. You know what I'm saying? Like he's his own individual artist, and if he slips up and he messes up, or he drops a dud, or he gets caught up in a scandal, it's on him. So he might, and that was another thing too, man. Guys out there getting in trouble, man. This man out here trying to buy the Brooklyn Nets, or at least bring the Nets to Brooklyn at the time, trying to get an arena built. Like, you guys are messing with what's going on. Like, you can
tell that he was on his Nets phase, and he was already foreseeing things that people just still wanted to be, at a certain level. And it's just like, you could, like I said, you could see where it started to turn into corporate J, and Dame, it's sad to see Dame in this position. And the reason why is because there are certain things we can't take away from Dame. Dame was always for the artist. Dame screamed on people in board meetings for his artists. He made things happen. He kicked down doors for artists, even with how he believed in Jay, along with the whole push with that early Roc-A-Fella stuff and doing that. Dame was for the artists. There's so many Roc-A-Fella artists I could say when Dame came through for them. So he was for the artists. I think on the business side, if Dame would have continued the way he did, his tactics of doing business, and Jay was still been attached to it, I don't see it going the way it goes now, because when you move in that way, is in that bully way, it's either you're gonna continue bullying your way to the top and it works for you, or you're gonna piss a lot of people off. And it's sort of a blackballing thing that starts happening. Nobody want to fool with you in business or whatever. So the intentions was there. It's just the tactics is something that, as you start to grow and evolve, it's no longer a method that needs to be used no more, man.
I think one of the biggest factors in all of this that no one really talks about is the fact that Sigel was getting in trouble, man. You know what I'm saying? I think if Sigel was to have taken that opportunity in a similar way that Kanye did, it's like, okay, the guys are broken up. Clearly, Siegel's not last album, but The Becoming was on Dame Dash's label, right? It wasn't on Roc-A-Fella. Mm-hmm. If Sigel would have taken that opportunity where Jay went his way and Dame went his way or whatever, and Kanye's going that way, to be like, okay, well, shit, me and Dame gonna rock this. Siegel's a great talent. And I've always said here that when you think about somebody to the talent level of Sigel, who had to get basically their production signed off on by another artist, there was no way that Sigel was going to be able to make a blueprint while he was under Roc-A-Fella Records, while Jay was still active, because all the great production was going to go to Jay. That was proven from the blueprint itself. But with this split, that was an opportunity for Sigel to go out there and be the DMX of whatever, Dame Dash record label or whatever, and be able to carry that, because I think Sigel had the talent to be able to carry something like that, not to mention having state property having his back too. But the fact that Sigel was getting in trouble during that time and got locked up, that put Dame in a situation where it's like, well, don't have Sigel anymore. Kanye's staying with Def Jam. I got to start all the way over. So I think that was an added factor too. And I think I think Sigel could have really carried the torch where I don't think anybody would have felt salty one way or another. And then it came to a situation where Sigel got out, and then he starts, messing with 50 to kind of, and 50 did that to mess with Jay. And then it gets messy again.
I think it's two things here. And one of the biggest things I need everybody to really recognize this and look, when Roc-A-Fella disbanded, nobody really came out of that and elevated but Kanye, really. Any artist that was on that roster, they just kind of went to the wayside and forgot about. Really, when you think about it, who from that Roc-A-Fella roster really did? Who chose either side? Nobody really came out on top that was on that roster. So all the artists were casualties of that Roc-A-Fella breakup. But that goes into my second point in saying the talent was there, the business sense wasn't, because it shouldn't have never been a spot for these careers so far in the age of their careers were happening, except some of those young artists that were just casualties of that, never really dropped or were young and never really got the rollout they were supposed to. But for the most part, for all of them being older and at that point in their career, were having that tutelage and that knowledge behind them to do business the right way. When that stuff fell apart and you guys couldn't stay above water, that says something, man. Like, how long were you relying on these men to carry you? And I think this is where it shows a little bit more to Jay's position. Like, when it disbanded and everybody sank instead of swim, that says a lot of why Jay couldn't keep on being everybody's shoulder to lean on for you guys to stay relevant or you guys to stay hot. At some point in time, you guys gonna have to go do the groundwork. And that's some credit I have to give to Cam. Cam laid that foundation that he didn't need. Like, he put himself in a position where he wasn't going to ride off either one's coattails for him to be successful. Right. He kind of took the reins, and that's why it looked like a hostile takeover, because Cam was proactive. Cam came out there and said, this is Dipset, this is what we doing, this is how we moving, and I'm not relying on either one of you guys to get stuff done. The business side, yeah, you guys do what y'all need to do, but he really honed in, and he did what a lot of those other artists should have been doing. And
now, I think Cam is a great example because Kanye's a little different. Kanye is his own producer. Like, he could do whatever he wants. He's self-contained. You know what I'm saying? And one of the things that Kanye kind of exemplified or spoke about mostly on his documentary that's on Netflix, or the documentary was about him, was the fact that he was paid from being a producer, so he wasn't going to change his message. He didn't need to go out here and chase a deal because he could go out here, make a beat and sell it for 50,000 or whatever. So he was able to kind of be him, do him, be self-contained as a producer. And so he was going to be his own artist. Like somebody in the chat said, Kanye was going to be Kanye. Now Cam, he went out there and did what I'm saying that Sigel could have done at that time. Take on that own initiative and say, look, I see what these guys have done. I saw what Roc-A-Fella built. I'm going to go ahead and do my own thing. Mad Max with the super chat. Matt's talking about Mike Gass and Kanye. I'm telling the truth about Kanye. Mad Max with the super chat says Beanie Sigel would never make the blueprint with or without Jay or be DMX. Beans was too street. He couldn't make them songs Kiss made with Mariah, and Kiss wasn't the face of the label. Come on, Mike, stop it. I disagree with that. I think that that Beanie Sigel song in the club that was on the Backstage soundtrack that Timbaland produced, I think that showed that Sigel could make bangers. Sigel could rhyme over Timbaland tracks. Sigel could make that record that he made with Snoop on the hook that the Neptunes produced.
That is a good question. I mean, that is a good point. Like Beans had the bars. I feel like Beans could make any song you want him to. But
yeah, Do It Again is his song. Jay jumped on that.
Outside of being Beans the Broad Street Bully, like I don't know how you marketed him outside, how you market him outside the street side of
he
things.
Made Rock the Mic. He made Do It Again is his song. Jay jumped on that. Like Sigel proved that he could make singles too.
He could rap over anything, but as far as the marketing feel of him, I don't know how that would have went.
I think you market Sigel maybe not the same way you market Biggie, but in a similar way. You know what I'm saying? Like Biggie was a lot more polished than Sigel. But I think that there were a lot of similarities there. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not sitting here saying Sigel is Biggie, but I do think that. What's that?
I said Beans. He proved he could spit over anything.
I tell you what. I bet if Diddy had Beanie Sigel, he would have did something with him, and that's the God honest truth.
The sound.
I've seen Diddy work magic.
I agree. But
you know, he was
Philly
diamond in the rough.
Philly artists are very talented, and when you really think about the depth of when you talk about Philly artists, I mean, I'm not like Beans had. He held his own in every category. If you want to go to war, you beefing, he gonna give that to you too.
He roasted Jadakiss. We try to act like that didn't happen. Anybody that has Jadakiss held high, you gotta have Sigel held high. He killed him on that record, on his own record.
You know, so it's like it's just the marketing standpoint of Beans I only question. You know, how we clean up Beans and package him out to a demographic outside the street. You know, that's my only question of how that would have went.
I think Rock the Mic was outside the street. I do think he was still very street on. Yeah, I think he was still very street on like Do It Again and stuff. But songs like Feel It in the Air, man, like those are special records. Like not everybody can make those records. I think too that you were seeing the evolution of Beans. That's why I like the Becoming so much. Like you were seeing the evolution of this artist, and it kind of got stopped like right there in its tracks. And it's unfortunate because he was clearly growing. He was becoming better as a lyricist. He showed that he could go bar for bar with Jay-Z. He had like a mixture of a Scarface and Biggie in him. Now, I don't know if he can make as many radio records as Biggie made, and it would translate in that way because I don't know if he had the voice that Biggie had or the flow that Biggie had, but I think Sigel definitely didn't maximize on that untapped potential, and I do think that could have easily been the next phase of Roc-A-Fella, and if he wasn't getting in trouble like that, Jay would have kept him on. Jay loved Beans. Jay knew how great Beans was.
Yeah, he dumped a lot in the Beans, but But the further back, yeah, man, when we talk about the split, you know, the only people that kind of came out unscathed was Kanye, man, and Cam, you know, and Dipset. Everybody else just kind of fell to the wayside, and now we've been seeing them do interviews about Jay from this day on. You know, it's just like you can't carry all y'all, man. You know, so many. You know, I know we could talk about this and people just, if you want Jay to be the demon, whatever, guys. Like, I don't care. I mean, what more do you want, man? It's not even me defending. It's like at some point in time, these are grown men, dog. Like, y'all got to figure it out. The Roc-A-Fella breakup has been long, long ago now. It's kind of like to still have people doing interviews, and that's the focal of their interviews and shit now. It's like, what have you done for the last 10 years? What have you done for the last so and so years? It's like, if that's the focal point and the main point of your conversation, and it's just like, then that shows and tells a lot. Like,
well, what do you think Dame should do? Like, I think that what it appears is the fact that he has bought into, the media, social media that wants to hear him talk about Jay. And for many years he wouldn't, but people would always ask him. And now he's just going and doubling down on it and saying, okay, you want me to talk about Jay? I'll talk about Jay. What do you feel like Dame should do at this point?
I don't know what could save Dame. What has always been a part of Dame is he was working in film. Leave music alone. Just go because you don't have to put your face to that shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, get real big budgets or whatever, however you can pull it off business wise, whatever, and just start dumping the stuff into film. Music is not where it's at. He's always wanted to pivot into those things, but and we seen it. We seen, like Paid in Full and stuff like that. If he continues on that way, I think that'll work out for Dame. Being in that space. I mean, we even see like when Irv Gotti, he had, Tales on BET, he started getting into the TV world, that music world, man, for him, I think is exhausted. Move into that, but the still do these interviews, and these are interviews you're conducting that's on your platform. Nobody's coming to you and say, oh, we're asking for the question of Jay from you. Nobody's doing that. You're no longer in these interviews with the Breakfast Club and stuff like that, and people are asking you about Jay. Bro, you're getting on your own platform and you're having people asking you these questions and you wanting to make these the focal of your topic. You're still, in a sense, wanting to ride off that coattail of conversation, hoping that people agree with you. And there are people that agree, because right now it's a Jay hate train. Everybody hates Jay. For everybody who doesn't hate Jay, then everybody's all of a sudden is dick riders. I don't know what people want, dog. I don't have a hate. I'm not a hater. You know what I'm saying?
Both things to be true, right? He could truly be hurt. You know what I'm saying? He could truly feel that, he was double crossed by
years, bro. Like, come on, man.
You're saying just get over it. It's hard to, when things happen publicly, I guess it's different.
You said what now?
I said when things happen publicly, I guess it's different. And I do feel like initially Dame tried to just get over it, but the media wouldn't let him get over it. But now I guess, I don't know. I will say this. Obviously it hurts. Obviously it's something that, it still, affects Dame in that way. But, to a person that Jay appears to be and who he depicts himself to be in songs, it shows Jay is winning even more when you go out there and continue to show that you're hurt. I think the best way to get back, if you will, is to move on. And, and I think that there was a missed opportunity here where he could have just went ahead and sold Jay his shares of that Reasonable Doubt album, or, Roc-A-Fella Records or whatever's left of that, and say, you know what? I just want to, start clean. And, I know we've had our disagreements, yada, yada. We ain't got to do business together moving forward. But just on some, just for the culture and for the legacy of what we built, let's be cordial. You know what I'm saying? And here,
I think that happened.
Holding Reasonable Doubt over his head wasn't the best move, because this guy has all the chips, really. He was going to get it regardless. And now you see the state of New York has it, and he's gonna get it. Like that. Well, that ain't nothing but a phone call.
Played itself. I mean, this is a guy who's been a proponent of ownership, a proponent of work for yourself, don't work for another man. And all we see from you is failed business ventures. I mean, at some point in time, bro, you can't ride coattails for people for so long. And like I said, it's sad that to see Dame going out the way he did, because Dame was the epitome of entrepreneurship. He was the epitome of going out there and getting it and showing people how to do it, but I just think, over time we've seen how that goes and who's on top and who's not. And I mean, what do you want from him? You know, what do you want from Jay at this point?
Well,
Now?
I will say this
It's so
before
two
we
needs
move
two
on.
in this situation.
Before we move on to the next topic, I do think that at some point, Jay had to ride, Dame's coattails at some point
I
early
think they're
on. Maybe.
depending on each other.
Yeah, and they all worked together and they rode each other to success. Pause. But
Mhm.
I think that the ruined relationships from some of Dame's approaches, and we've seen this on video footage. I think that it didn't really align with the way that Jay wanted to do business for himself moving forward.
Mhm.
And when you look at it, just from a fair and objective standpoint, he did ride this thing out until, the company sold. And these guys, sold the company and he did his retirement and went on his way. So, I mean, that's fair. It's not like he bailed out on the guys. You know what I'm saying? Like, so what more can you ask for? He played his contract out. It's like when LeBron went to Miami. You know what I'm saying? He played his Cleveland contract out. You can feel whatever way you want to feel about the fact that he made a decision to go to Miami, but he played his contract out. It is what it is.
Yeah, to still like be hurt over shit that happened X amount of years ago and blaming that for your lack of success is crazy to me, dog. At some point in time, it's like the sad song got to end, bro. Like you blame everybody else but yourself from what it sounds like. Like where's the accountability? You ask them, oh, I'm in this way because my investments and then all that. When you doing business, how you end up? Well, that's your story, bro. There's other people that's getting it, so.
That's part of the game. You know what I'm saying? Win some, you lose some. But people don't want to hear those stories. People just want to hear the success stories, and it sounds like excuses when you're going out there, broadcasting it to the world. You just got to, put your head down and what I'm saying, get the work done and get it out. I did. You know what? I was thinking we can go from one way to the other because I was thinking about this J. Cole audio series, and I got a lot to say about. Got a lot to say about J. Cole. But while we're talking about Roc-A-Fella, I was going to say, like, what were the top 3 hip-hop years based on album output? But if we talk about album output, what do you think of the top 3 hip-hop record labels all time? And we ain't going to count Def Jam. Def Jam stands alone. It's a little different. Unless you want to count Def Jam. I mean, I think Def Jam's pretty much number 1. But LL Cool J's radio celebrates 39 years today, by the way. But yeah, what do you think the top 3 hip hop record labels all time is? Do you think Roc-A-Fella's in that?
My first one, I'm gonna say No Limit.
Over Roc-A-Fella, why?
Everybody released the album. Everybody was successful. Everybody ate.
My problem with No Limit is the longevity.
Well, you could say the same thing about a Roc-A-Fella. You could say the same thing about a Death Row. You could say, a lot of them didn't stand the test of time. Like
I think
they
the music
there, and it kind of like once that star left, it kind of imploded. So, like at least I could say it's No Limit. Not everybody signed to Roc-A-Fella released the album. Not everybody that signed to Roc-A-Fella was successful. Like P made sure everybody on there dropped. You were at least getting like 4 or 5 albums that year from No Limit. Everybody ate.
More than that.
Everybody ate. I feel like, you gotta say No Limit, man. And
No Limit was him signing Snoop Dogg and signing Mystical. Those are big moves.
Great moves.
And I don't think we ever seen any moves like that from boutique labels at that time. You know what I mean? Like we had never seen. Well, I'll give Death Row credit, and that's kind of. Tupac was already on Interscope, but that was kind of a free agency type of signing situation. But other than Pac, we really ain't seen nothing like Snoop going to No Limit. That was crazy.
Yeah, that was major. It saved Snoop, and it also you got some good albums out of Snoop out there. I know people criticize Snoop's albums. I was talking about this the other day. I was like, those albums on No Limit with Snoop was actually pretty good.
Yeah, they were.
Hearing them still be Snoop spitting over those type of beats was major. And I don't think No Limit gets more of the credit for their imprint of a label in hip hop at that time. I guess because they're independent, but all these other labels that people name, they're just subsidiaries of the bigger companies. Roc-A-Fella was just a trickle down from Def Jam. If people want to be specific when it gets down to the semantics, but I have to give one to No Limit. I have to give one to Cash Money because Cash Money's still going.
Yeah.
Simple as that. A lot of those labels imploded. Cash Money's still here.
Cash Money, whether people want to admit it or not, I think Cash Money, for the longevity and for the cultural impact in different phases, Cash Money's there with Def Jam. I mean, it just is. Like when you sit there and think about it. Now, granted, in my personal opinion, Def Jam had more iconic and talented acts and efforts. So I kind of put Def Jam in a different place. You got LL Cool J, Slick Rick, and Public Enemy all the way up to Jay-Z, DMX, and it's just not fair at that point. But if we're talking about from a longevity standpoint and meaning something to different generations and different eras, Cash Money, it tops. It tops Death Row. Now I think Death Row's music has lasted longer. Maybe that's a maybe.
Know. And that's hard.
I think here's the conversation, and this is why I wanted to start the show off with 2001 and have this conversation. Is Aftermath's legacy greater than Death Row's legacy? Because if we want to talk about longevity, Aftermath has that. Aftermath has Eminem. It has 50 Cent. It has The Game. It has Kendrick Lamar. It has Anderson .Paak. It has Dr. Dre.
Why that's hard is because of different eras. Because really, when you look at Def Jam, Dre left on Snoop's second album. Dre wasn't there no more.
Bro.
Yeah, he left Death Row, and when Snoop left Death Row, the Death Row wasn't like really outside of Pac.
When Pac died, Death Row was over. I mean, the Dogfather was on Death Row, but it wasn't a factor.
That wasn't a good album to me. Yeah. Dogfather wasn't a good album to me. So it was so many factors. He had the trial. He didn't have the Dre production no more. It was like, Pac saved Death Row really. Because what Snoop was going through, and we didn't know how that was going to turn out. But Pac saved Death Row. So Death Row was amazing at their prime, at that height. But it's like, to me, when you talk about longevity, yeah, like it wasn't there for Death Row. And I feel like it was up to Pac. It was on Pac to keep that going because Pac wanted to extend Death Row. Remember, they wanted to do Death Row East and stuff like that or whatever. But if when Pac left, the lights went out, man. And they tried to bring it back with the Row and with Crooked Eye and everything and Left Eye, but yeah, that wasn't hitting either. So
I think it's the way it happened. Not to interrupt you, I think because at the time, we're used to it now, unfortunately. But at the time, no hip hop stars or stars in hip hop music had been killed like that. Like that had never happened. And I think that, not only were they missing an incredible talent, but I think the way it happened just demoralized the whole label at large. You know what I mean? And then not to mention Dre leaving. And I think with the violence and, the perceived violence that was going on, Dre, he wanted to do something different. Really, we talk about Jay-Z. Dr. Dre did the Jay-Z move before Jay-Z made the Jay-Z move. Dr. Dre left Snoop, Suge, and Pac too, because Pac's talking shit about him all over Machiavelli. Like, Dr. Dre left. He left Death Row, hat in hand. Jay Short, shout out to Jay Short in the building. He says, oh, shoot, hold on. I can't even see it. Where is that? Hold on. Okay, here we go. He says, my problem with, hold on. Sorry, guys. I can't, where's Jay Short super chat? Hold on. All right, here we go. My problem with Def Jam is, it's like, we're a little, it says something was a little too polished. When you think of New Orleans, do you think of Cash Money or No Limit? When you think of New York, you don't necessarily think of Def Jam. That's interesting. When you think
Depends.
of LA, you think of Death Row for sure.
Yeah. I mean, all right, I'm gonna ask you this: Bad Boy or Death Row? Bad Boy had the longevity. Big died. Mace kept it running.
All right, let's be real about this here. Death Row Records. We're talking about The Chronic, Doggy Style, All Eyes on Me, Dog Food, and Machiavelli. It's 5 albums. I think that as a hip hop label, I would give the nod to Death Row over Bad Boy, but as an overall label, if we're talking about R&B and hip hop and all that, yeah, you got to say Bad Boy. But yeah, as a hip hop label, I'm giving that to Death Row. And then we got to throw the Murder Was the Case soundtrack in there. We're talking about 6 albums, and I'm trying to think, what am I missing, guys? Am I missing anything? But yeah, people are saying Death Row by far because we're talking about rap as a rap label. But if you're talking about as an overall label, you got 112's catalog, you got Faith Evans' catalog, you got Total's catalog, you got Mace's catalog, Diddy's catalog, Biggie's catalog, Shine's album that was on there. Then you had a resurgence where you had, I think, man, Bad Boy was kind of done after the 90s. I mean, unless we want to talk Danity Kane type stuff. Are we going to count that?
I mean, I don't want to, but it's still part of the legacy because they still did numbers. You know
what? Technically, Janelle Monáe's catalog is on Bad Boy too. MGK, French Montana, and I think that Pitbull made an album on Bad Boy too. I don't know.
I don't know that.
I think one of his albums was on Bad Boy. I'll go fact check that, but yeah, I mean, I would say it like this: Bad Boy didn't have a culture after the 90s. Is that fair to say? Black Rob made some dope shit on there too. I will say that. Life Story is a dope album. G-Dep's album's dope too. So I don't want to forget those guys.
Yeah, I mean, when I think about Bad Boy, it's such a legacy that's attached to it of just hit quality music, so it's like I don't know, it's hard to like take those out of the equation. I mean, because we still get Harlem World, we still get Ready to Die, we still get Life After Death, we still get No Way Out, we still, like these are classics in their own right that belongs on Bad Boy. The R&B joints, I don't know, the marketing point of Bad Boy, I feel like, yeah, we got Death Row, but man, the dynasty over that at Bad Boy was amazing too, man.
What about Aftermath or Bad Boy? The super chat says nobody cares about afterlife after 50's run. Like Mike Anderson .Paak, he's not even hip hop for real, son. But Kendrick Lamar is, and we can't. You guys always want to talk Kendrick. He's Aftermath, isn't he? In all of Kendrick's illustrious catalog on Aftermath.
How much of that is TDE?
I mean, it doesn't matter. It's on Aftermath. We don't know. I mean, you know what I'm saying? We don't know.
And that's one of the things that I don't know. I'm having technical difficulties, man, because the stuff's trying to go dead on me.
No, it's all good. It's all good. So, okay. I'm going to have to give Cash Money a nod. I'm conflicted when it comes to this Aftermath and Death Row thing, but I'm leaning Death Row over Aftermath. And people say that Kendrick's not really Aftermath. I mean, let's look on the back of the CDs. I want to say Aftermath's name is on everything after Section 80. But I'll give it to you guys. I mean, yeah, I'll give Death Row the nod over Aftermath. So Cash Money, Death Row. And my next pick is going to be, I feel conflicted with Bad Boy. I really do. I might go off the wall and say like loud or something. Yeah, I'm going loud. I'm going loud.
Come on, man.
Wu-Tang, Big Pun. Yeah, I'm going loud. Huh.
Out.
Steve Rifkin did his thing over there. They got Wu-Tang.
But who else came from there?
Who else was on loud? We'll get back to it. Let's talk about this J. Cole joint. So, J. Cole is doing a what is it? What is he calling it? An audio series. Again, many of you said that it was a done deal. You're not interested in what J. Cole has to say right now. And J. Cole has responded by, I guess, what is this, a podcast series?
Honestly, it's an audio series, and he said he's talking about like points in his career and stuff like that, and it's gonna have some unreleased music. I think it's a good idea.
Yeah, this is the time for unreleased music.
Yeah, you telling your story. I kind of feel like, yeah, if you're gonna introduce people, you have to make people love you again.
Yeah.
You know, and so I think that's what the effort of that is doing. You got to make people love you again. So I think it's a good idea. I really do. That's how you get people to love you again. You let the people know what you came from, how you got where you are, the pivotal moments, you know, things you could speak on that you never spoke on. Yeah, man, I think is I think it was a dope thing for him to do. A lot of people would just be like, just drop the album, but
he's got to reset, right? He's got to, like you said, get people to fall in love with him again and kind of rebuild. And I think that's one of the big things about Cole. People love Cole and they love him as a person. And, you know, Friday Night Lights and the warm up and all those things are special because you're following his story and he's hitting the reset button on that and taking you back to that story and giving you some unreleased music at the same time. I think it's a great idea. Mad Max in the super chat says, Rough Riders over Aftermath. I think that's interesting. Jay Short with the super chat says, I know the Rough Riders had the biggest fumble legacy bag in history of hip hop. How do you have DMX, Eve, The Lox, and Dragon on the same label and not at least have a top 15 album? Shaking my head. That is a great point. That is a great point. Because I could say Aftermath has a top 15 album. I could say Death Row has a top 15 album. Bad Boy has a top 15 album, arguably. Depending on who you ask, say Cash Money has one of those that are in contention. So yeah,
one.
I do think that DMX is Dark and Hell is Hot is possibly a top 15, 20 album. Yeah. But yeah,
that's had 2 in 1 year. You know what I'm saying? Like, but that was Def Jam. You know, that's Def Jam for those.
That's fair. But yeah, as far as J. Cole, I think it's a great move. It's a smart move. I don't know if it's going to work. We'll see if it's going to work. I don't know what can actually get the buzz back to where it once was. I think it's a shame that he even has to do this at this point. He was on such a great run. You know, he was such a great run when it came to the features.
He said this he's been working on. He's been working on for a minute though. You know, so this was before the whole drama and everything. He said this is something that he was already they had been recording and been planning on doing. And you know, it's no different from Kanye's documentaries. You know what I'm saying? This is just audio, and it's telling those stories. Like I said, if Kanye didn't have all that outside stuff, we can't say we looked at that Kanye documentary and we didn't love Kanye again. We did. We went back and listened to his whole album runs all over again. That documentary made us believe in Kanye and stuff like that, to love him again. So I think for this with Cole, it's not bad, you know. At the end of the day, Cole didn't get killed in a beef. Cole didn't do nothing crazy. The man apologized. Was it something that you would want in a battle? No, but I say if there's people that play themselves on real ways, and this is apology is something that is so damning to his career, I'm just like, I really just be wondering what is it that get people off artists now these days? Because there's so many other things that artists do that like be like you could be off them and people still listen. That him apologizing is the most damning thing. This is it's crazy to me, bro. Like
I think it. I think it was the fight that everybody wanted to see, or the battle, if you will, that everybody wanted to see. I think people wanted to see who was going to, take that title as the top of this generation when we talk about the big three. And, Drake is who Drake is. And, I think people were cool with the Drake and Kendrick thing, but they really wanted the Cole and Kendrick thing because clearly we're not going to get a collaborative album from them, right? We're not going to get that collaboration with them that people have always wanted. So, we might as well get a back and forth, especially when J. Cole is rapping at his highest level that many people have seen him do in his career. And this was an opportunity to kind of close that book and say, hey, this is the best rapper of this generation. But, not only did we not get that moment, and not only did he not face that moment, it appears for some people that he ran from that moment. And that's hard to come back from. I mean, maybe if he just straight up admit, I don't know, man. I'm at a loss of words because I've never seen anything like this before. So it's like I don't really know what can be done.
I mean, the knock on Cole is that is like some of his records he put out, or even album fillers or little singles he put out. It always seemed like he wanted that competition.
Yeah,
it always seemed he wanted somebody to just say his name, and I guess that's the thing. But it's like, is it enough to where his career is done? No. Like, if his career is over due to that, and to see other artists do what they do and get away with it, and people still want to listen to it, that's bullshit. So
we've seen guys like Nas who never really gave you the inclination that they were ready to go out there and mix it up, step into that mode when it was necessary. And I think that for a lot of people, like you said, the way that he was rhyming on these features and whatnot, you saw flashes of that. And when it came down to, you're in the ring for the title bout, you say, yeah, I don't want that fight. And I think for a lot of people, it's like, man, it ain't that serious. Because this is the thing. And I could see if it was a situation where violence ensued, but no one ever was like, yo, this is going to turn into a violent situation. We need to walk away from this. You know what I mean? This was all on wax.
It got dirty. It got dirty, man. Like, I'm not gonna lie. People will say this is the greatest beef of all time. I don't look at it like that. I really don't. But I do think it was an important beef as far as what we're gonna get now, as far as music from this point on. What is going to be the trajectory? And I feel like every era has like a turning point in what the sound of music is going to go. I'm looking forward to where we're going to go from here. But it was a mudslinging contest, man. It was a mudslinging contest where it kind of got ridiculous. The social media chatter is one of the things that contributes to beefs these days. So, if it wasn't for the internet, I don't know if we would still be talking about Cole in the manner of how people do now. The internet keeps that stuff going. I feel what Cole's doing with the audio series and him starting from the point where he signed, I don't know how far back it goes, but to talk about key pivotal moments in the career and releasing new music along with it, I think it's a good idea. Personally, I do.
I think it is a good idea. And I think it's a good way to go. Jay Short with the Super Chat says, J. Cole is becoming a sympathetic figure more than loved. I think this is a terrible idea, and he's doing everything he can to avoid the challenge of making a classic album. Well, what do you think about that? I mean, do you think that think he's in position to make his best album ever still, or
the anticipation is there, but the quality of music and the quality of lyrics for him will still be there. I mean, it's not like he fell off in his music. The music didn't fall off. It's the likability from what people talk about as far as him apologizing, that's kind of like detoured some fans, if anything. But the music quality, him rapping, all that. I mean, because we're not going to sit here and act like Might Delete Later wasn't a good project. That was a good project. We would be talking about that differently if it wasn't for the apology. So I don't know. Maybe Cole's in this interesting spot where we just have to look at him like we look at other artists that didn't put their names in a pot of being competitive with other artists. There's a category we stick those artists in. We can still listen to you, but we know you didn't want to mix it up. That's all.
Mad Max with the super chat says Cole dissed Wale, apologize. Diss dot apologize. We don't like weakness in hip hop. Stand on your word and don't rap. Or don't rap. He is a January 29th baby. Now I don't deserve to have the same birthday as Rock. He doesn't deserve to have the same birthday as Rakim and me.
Oh man.
I think you got Rick Ross on that day too, right? Yeah, we got Rick Ross, J. Cole, Mad Max, and Rakim. So you guys have a loaded January 29th.
Yeah, man. One thing I can say about Cole, I think that's a good idea, but from this point, he has to deliver. You have to deliver. The music has to be good. And that's the one thing that he got it is the music hasn't been bad. So that's the only.
I will say this. He has a lot to talk about. And I do think that for the type of artist he is, he could really make that introspective album now. And he could kind of, not speak on this too much. But I think, again, there was a wasted opportunity on that Port Ontario song or whatever, man. Save that stuff for the album, man. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. I just vehemently disagree with a lot of moves that were happening from the J. Cole side of things, but I don't think this is a bad idea at all.
I don't think it's a bad idea either. I mean, I don't agree with a lot of moves that's going on in hip hop. And I had to check myself for this because, this year wasn't as bad as I thought it was. And then I would say the true year with hip hop is dead had to be this one. And then I go back and I'm looking at fourth quarter drops and I'm like, it's not so bad. These fourth quarter, you didn't get the monstrous albums out of this year, but I've been happy with these fourth quarter drops.
Speaking of which, Dr. Dre and Snoop were on Drink Champs. Did you hear that new record, Out of the Blue?
Bringing game, not having game on the Super Bowl. So I want to see him talk on that.
I'm in. You know what? I'm very surprised that they even mentioned that. And I listen.
No, that's a fair question to ask him because everybody always asks, why wouldn't you want to even ask game? I think it's a fair question to ask Dre. He's not a bug question.
I agree. He's not, and I appreciate the fact that they did ask him that question because, like you said, normally those type of questions are directed to the game as opposed to,
and they can't hear us.
Oh, somebody say you can't hear. You guys hear us? Well, let's see. Let me check what's going on my end. See, what happened to the audio?
Mic check. Can y'all hear us? Can y'all hear us?
Check. I hear you guys. I mean, I hear you.
Yeah, I hear you.
That's every time it shows in the picture. Let's see. Let us know if you can hear it. Copyright. Let us know in the chat if you can hear us. Can you hear us? Mic check. Mic check. Let us know if you still can't hear us. Can you hear us? Can you hear us? Let me see. We couldn't hear what I said. Audio went out. All right. It said we're back now. You hear us now?
Yeah, they said when you show a picture, it goes out.
Oh, okay. Makes sense. All right. Okay, so what did we say during that picture? You were talking about the sound quality of Dr. Dre and Missionary is about to drop, and that they actually did this Drink Champs episode at Complex Con live. Now, we were just talking about the game and the fact that Nori seemingly, or someone, either Nori or DJFN, actually asked Dr. Dre about the game not being on the halftime show. And Dr. Dre said that
He didn't
that was.
regret.
I mean, when you think about it, look at that show. I do think
totality and what he says.
I mean, where was Game gonna fit in? Now, granted, I will say this: he could have fit in there. I will say this, man, with it being in LA, and the Game meaning what he means to LA, I would have liked to have seen Game out there, especially since we got 50 Cent out there. But again, In the Club is a huge, huge record. Where would you have fit Game in at, and what song would you have played?
If they could have fit Kendrick All Right on there, we could have put Game on there. It could have been Put You on the Game. It could have been Hate It or Love It. It could have been One Blood. It could have been the joint with Keisha Cole. Like Game
on
has
the Super Bowl stage.
On
the Super Bowl stage.
Yeah. We could have got Game. We can't act like Game didn't have records. He had records.
Oh no, Game got records. He got a great catalog, but I think that a lot of his catalog is for the heads. You know what I'm saying? I do think that if he was going to go up there, it would have been great for him and 50 to do How We Do.
Yeah,
something like that. You know what I'm saying? I could see that happening and that ringing off. But as far as Kendrick Lamar, man, we already know Kendrick Lamar is the industry darling, and he was going to get that stage regardless.
Well, that was Aftermath family. I mean, even when you think about Mary being on there, she kind of stems from that Aftermath workings. I mean, Dre produced some of her later hits. So, Game, I think it's interesting where Game is. When you really think about West Coast moments, besides when they passed the torch to Kendrick, you don't really see Game being in those those West Coast moments. And I think it's by that from the choice of moves that Game made in his career. I was looking at this interview with Zoe from Zoe Pound, Ali Zoe with Vlad, and he talks about how Dr. Dre was against Dre having the Jimmy Henchman management, and rightfully so. I just feel like the choices that Game made and the things he's done has kind of put him as the outcast of the West Coast, who is important to the West Coast because he did hold the torch for the West Coast before Kendrick. You know what I'm saying?
Well, so let me make another correlation between Dr. Dre, Jay-Z, and this is Game and Beanie Sigel, right? Mm-hmm. I do think that there is an element of credibility that Beanie Sigel and his wild street element, if you will, added to Jay-Z at a certain time. It was good while it was working for you until it got to a point where it's like you want to separate yourself from it. I think the same thing when it comes to the Game and Dr. Dre. I think at the time, the Game was adding a level of California credibility to what Dre was doing too, because, you had 50 around at the time, and, the other artist that Dre had was Eminem. So he needed something that was very Cali, West Coast centric, and that was Game. Game had the streets. Game had, the mixtapes out there in Cali. He was the next guy up, and Dr. Dre wanted, to be a part of that. Until, like you said, the street element got too much. And it was like, okay, well, I can't bring him everywhere around me, But I will say he has kept Game around to a certain degree. Jay Short with the Super Chat says, I'm not disappointed in J. Cole. He is who I thought he was. Good, but overhyped. Overhyped rapper. Honestly, what is J. Cole's legacy in hip-hop? Is he top 25? We could tell the story. Can we tell the story of rap without him? That's a good question. Do you think you could tell the story of rap without J. Cole?
Yeah.
I think so too.
And the reason why is the only time where you include him in a story is because that extension from that J branch. Honestly, the legacy.
JID, I guess you could say.
No, Cole has a great unit over there. He does. He has a great artist over there. I mean, minus Ari that's begging to get off the label now for whatever reason, but he has great artists over there. Their compilations are solid. Like He's building something special over there. But yeah, we could say that about a lot of rappers. I think Cole is he's important, man. He's important to the culture of now. So I got to retrace some of my words on that, because when we're talking about the greater scheme of things and the biggest, when we're talking about hip hop as a whole and in errors, we have to put Cole in there, because if we're talking about the big three, there's an importance to that, especially to the culture at this moment. So yeah, we could tell that story without it, but if you want to tell a story of hip hop, I guess it depends where you want to start at, but Cole is important because he's important to the soundtrack of my life as well. So I can't say that. That's why I say I have to retract those words when I'm looking back at it. When I'm thinking about that era where everything turned, and I'm thinking about the warm up, I'm thinking about the Friday Night Lights, and that was around that era when I'm on Drake, I'm on ASAP, I'm on Wale, I'm listening to all these people that's coming out around this time. Cole was one of those guys. So yeah, I think we have to mention it when we're talking about this generation and this era of music. But if we want to talk about this whole thing of hip hop that we have, we could leave a lot of these artists out, that if it wasn't for certain things that transpired.
The 2010s is a very interesting era. I mean, you got everything from Young Thug, Future, to J. Cole, to Kendrick, to Drake, to ASAP, to ASAP Mob, shit, Ferg, Rocky, Sean, Wale. It's all over the place. You know what I'm saying? At Migos. And I think that if we start hashing out like the most impactful songs, I don't think J. Cole's on that list. But maybe albums, maybe mixtapes. But again, I think that would be a very interesting list. 2010s decade, top 25, everything. You know what I mean?
But when you flip it like that, when you're talking about artists and those songs, I mean more, but the album wise that they have,
Yeah.
like, when we're talking about the people that came out at that time, and we're talking about the people that's still there, I think that means something to me.
Yeah.
Your big three are the remaining from everybody that came from that. Everybody else phased out, or they're doing whatever. They're not as important into the eyes of mainstream hip hop. We have to still talk about Cole in that sense, man. Because time tells, and
When I look at Rocky, I think about movement.
Yeah,
like Dipset, like, you know what I mean? Like Rocky to me, and I'm not just saying because it's a Harlem thing. It's like Cam, you know what I'm saying? And it's like a whole different sound. It's a whole different attitude. Yeah, J. Cole might be a better rapper than Rocky, maybe. But for me, I think Rocky brought something different than Cole did. To me.
Movements is different. And the reason why I say they come and go with the body, like when I'm looking at the body of quality work, Cole has that. What's the body of quality work for Rocky? Rocky has fell flat these last few albums.
You didn't like Long Live ASAP? You didn't like? I liked
I'm talking about his most recent albums though. It kind of fell flat.
I liked what was that last one? I'm tripping. Hold on. And blame it on live. What's up? Testing. I like Testing.
I didn't like the album.
You didn't like Testing?
No. So
I mean,
we got to think about people that.
What do you think about people like Travis? Right, like it's like, where does Cole really stand up when we talk about these artists? Even whether people want to think this dude is dope or not, like Tyler. Like when you look at what Tyler's been able to do in this era, how do we really line it up with Cole outside of, Cole's isolated skill set? We talk about, just like you said, body of work.
There's people that have certain draws to them. And I feel like this is important about Cole. And I feel like anybody who's a Nas fan should be able to respect this too. The way how Cole has positioned himself in hip hop without the extra shit is great for me, because
I will give
you were signed to Jay. He wasn't with you. He wasn't in all the videos. And all this time, I think he probably got one Jay feature. And that was on the first album with Mr. Nice Watch.
Yeah.
he carved his own lane, and he's always been genuinely him. You know, there's certain people that get a different anticipation to them because the region they come from and stuff like that. This guy's from Fayetteville, North Carolina.
Yeah.
Fayetteville, North Carolina. You know, there was an attachment of ASAP Mob, Harlem, and all that. They brought a different feel with Harlem. And like how we said with Game, there's always he from Compton, the West Coast era, the you know,
Yeah.
gangs culture to it. Like there's people that have even with Kendrick not being an individual that is repping gangs, there was something that had to do with the notoriety of being from Compton and coming from being coming from Dre in the West Coast. There's something you attach to that you can't do that with Cole. You know, you can't. He really had to carve a lane for his own.
My bad. Mad Max with the super chat says Rocky would spank Dot and Cole in a versus. That's my word on everything. I got 25 joints.
ASAP stuff was bad, man.
ASAP I like ASAP's catalog, man.
I love ASAP's catalog, but it was a fad, bro. Like that phase, the ASAP Mob stuff phased out very early, bro. That early run was great, but when you know, the more Rocky spent overseas, the more it showed in the music, and it lost what we loved from Rocky. Because although it was Harlem and had a gritty thing to it, it still had Southern undertones in that music. There was some screw elements to that stuff. There was so much more to it than just the movement, the sound, it was different, bro. And for me, I feel like Cole, for where he came from, and he didn't need all of that, and it was all in the music. I think that really shows, man.
I agree. Now, as far as K-Dot, there's no way in the world that ASAP has a better body of work than K-Dot, and I don't see that happening. Yeah, shout out to Zuri. I hadn't seen Zuri in here in a minute. But yeah, man, I mean, let's get back to this Dr. Dre thing.
Yeah.
Dr. Dre, you know, I agree with what he had to say as far as the game thing, because he put together the halftime show with intent. Now, I know this is going to sound like Mike D being Mike D, but close your eyes and imagine if 50 Cent comes out there and does In the Club, and then right after that, you get How We Do from the Game, and we just take, Lose Yourself from Eminem just out of the whole set. Now, is that the one record that really didn't match?
Yeah, with the flow of the show. I mean, it was just a big record. You know, it's just big. You know, M is M. You know what I'm saying? Like, but I feel like M's importance on there is bigger than Game's, just because M single-handedly is a part of the reemergence of Dre. You know, Aftermath was looking kind of bleak. It was looking bleak before M. It was, because think about it, there was an Aftermath compilation.
I think the missing link in that is the guy that is on Drink Champs with Dr. Dre. I think you need Snoop Dogg, and I feel like Bitch Please was. Huh?
Yeah. No, I agree with you. That's who you need. You can't tell Dre without Snoop. I agree.
Yeah, but I do think that, you know, Eminem is a big, big part of Dr. Dre, not just coming back, but kind of diversifying his palette, right? I think that, bringing Snoop back was a little bit familiar for everybody. It's like, oh, okay, Dre and Snoop are back together. But having Eminem over here was like, okay, well, he has more than just some gangster shit that he can do. He can do this stuff with this guy. And I think that Guilty Conscious was a great, way to spoon feed people into that. But when Eminem found 50 or brought 50 to light, that was just, that was it.
I mean, he had the three people on there that was major part of his career after NWA and after Death Row. You know, I mean, Snoop is Death Row, so two people. But 50 and M, I mean, like I said, Aftermath is Aftermath that we know because M. You know, we got to give M the credit. When Dre found M and put him on, it skyrocketed. Beforehand, Aftermath was looking kind of rough starting up, and then that Eminem, when he got Eminem, he struck gold. Just remember, Eve said people forget, Eve was on Death Row. He dropped Eve for M.
Oh, she was on Aftermath.
She was on Aftermath. I'm sorry. She
Yeah.
was on Aftermath. He dropped E for M. You know what I'm saying? Like,
They put Eve on the bench real quick and gave her the, Rough Riders. And Rough Riders, it's funny. Rough Riders was actually able to do something with Eve. And once they did something with Eve, she went right back to Aftermath. It's crazy. But I will give Eminem credit. He was a big, big part of that whole Aftermath movement. And him being able to solidify 50 Cent as a part of that movement is huge. And a great thing for his legacy, for Dr. Dre's legacy. I'm looking forward to this Drink Champs and looking forward to just hearing, whatever other songs that they're going to debut, because I think this is a really good rollout for the album. I'm excited about the album. I know that the album's going to be great because Dr. Dre doesn't do press for his releases like this. And I think that Snoop is one of those individuals that brings something out in Dr. Dre that other people just, don't bring out in him. I mean, again, Dr. Dre is hip hop's Quincy Jones, and
fair assessment.
Dr. Dre's Michael Jackson, in my opinion, is Snoop. It is like that's his greatest collaborator. I think they're the best.
Funny,
they're the best rapper producer combo hip hop's ever seen.
And that's funny to say that because, he hasn't had a fully Dre produced album since Doggy Style. So to be in the conversation to say that is very telling when we have rapper and producer combos that did more albums than the Dre or Snoop together. So that means something. I just feel like I'm looking forward to that interview. I really am. They've been on a press run. They've been doing a lot of interviews and sit downs with people preparing for the album. I think that's something that these OGs have done a good job of showing these artists of doing again, because we've seen it with LL. I didn't see it much with Light, but I seen it with LL. He interviewed with everybody. See, the OGs are getting back to doing the press runs, because for a long time we've seen that your favorite artists, you name them, of whatever this generation is, your favorite artists, they're not doing the press runs for the album releases. Not your
media train like that.
Yeah, not your big one. I don't see Drake doing the press runs. I don't see Cole doing the press runs. I don't see Kendrick doing the press runs. These OGs are showing what this was. Working your records, introducing and like answering these questions. Like, they're really showing you the way of how working your records and prepping for an album goes, man. I think that's getting back to the true art of the industry and how this goes, in a sense. Even though things have changed, I still think these interviews are important, because although it's not more like it, essentially it's to sell your record, but it gives the interview is the first chance for people to really be more intimate with knowing who you are at whatever your point in life. We know Dre and Snoop, but this is an interesting part of their life. They want to hear about how this came about. They want to ask this question.
Up the excitement for the album.
Definitely.
Jay Super Chat says, here's a question no one has asked. Could M do a Super Bowl halftime show by himself? Does he have the songs to do it? I think he does, but it wouldn't be the halftime show that we would like. You know what I'm saying? Like, he has enough for, the audience that likes him, but we wouldn't love the show like that. So if you're asking, will he be able to shut it down on some hip hop shit? Nah, I don't think so. But does he have enough material to do at a Super Bowl halftime show? Sure, but I think it would be a forgettable Super Bowl halftime show. And I'm not saying that to be disrespectful or disparaging. Speaking of media, did you see Sean's Breakfast Club interview?
Yeah, I have many takes on that.
Oh, okay. We can get into that before we get out of here. Mad Max in the super chat. He says, "You overrate Doc's discography. Mad people can smoke him. He's not. He got not real records. I guess he ain't got real records. Black people care for Rocky, but but beat him. Pusha T would beat him. I don't know if he beat Game. Future would wash him. Sounds like a challenge. Okay. Sean was on the Breakfast Club doing media for his new documentary that came out today, I believe. And he had a lot of stuff to say. Where do you want me to start, or where you want to start with this?
I'll let you go, Mike.
Well, all right. First things first. I think that, listen, maybe it was different in New York. I don't know. But yes, the narrative was he sounds like Biggie. And the fact that he wants to kind of, shy away from that, like that wasn't the case, I think is dishonest. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, after a while, once we got used to Sean's voice, we understood, yeah, okay, well, he don't sound like Biggie. He has his own sound. But when he was on that Total remix, we were like, yo, this guy sounds like Biggie. So to say that that's not the draw and people, all the labels are gravitating to you because, saying you were just talented, nice, and all that. I get that. That's cool. You can say all of that. That's cool. You was dope. But there was no bidding war because of some mixtape, shine bars. And if it was, I ain't heard them, man. Like, I remember the guys that was getting that kind of buzz in that era, like a Cannabis, like a Fabulous at that time. You know what I'm saying? That you were hearing on all these Clue mixtapes and the Locks even. But it wasn't really like that. And Sean came across in this interview to me as a politician, as somebody who was saying all the right things, but the history was kind of skewed. I didn't really know what to believe because we all know politicians lie. That's what they do, right? And it felt like Sean, and I'm not saying this to be disrespectful because I love Sean's music and the album that he came out with on Bad Boy, but it sounded like he was kind of inflating, what he was as an emerging artist at that time. He was naming albums from like 96, 97, 94, 98. And it was like this whole time period was convoluted. And I didn't really realize, he didn't really pinpoint when he actually, I guess, signed the Bad Boy contract, because it seemed like it was done around 97. And I guess we didn't hear anything, until 99 or 2000. I don't know. It was all over the place for me. And I was kind of confused just based on, the knowledge that I had as a fan at the time. I don't know. He was all over. I mean, I could go a whole lot of places, but I want to start there. It's like just the origins of Sean and his career. It was like all over the place.
There's so many things he said in that interview that I was like, you suck ass nigga. And then I was like, I feel you. So it was so there's so many sections. So I'm gonna start at this. I was confused, and I still am confused on this interview with where do you sit with Diddy? Because he says, oh, we reconciled in 2012 and I did the stuff in concert, then I did the stuff and it was for Belize. But then didn't you do Drink Champs like not too long ago, and were you running around with Diddy and doing all that? If Diddy, he's now being diplomatic in his approach in this interview that I noticed versus the other interviews or sitting down and he's been talking, I took the rap for Diddy and this, that, blah, blah, blah. And it was like, that doesn't seem like the energy we were getting from you when he was out. And
like there was a price for that. He's like $50,000 for 10 years. It's like, what?
Yeah, that was going to be my next point. So he's talking about being a man of integrity and honorable, but where's your integrity with this? And I'm going to say this. You said that when Diddy offered you the 50 stacks, you felt insulted. You seen him running around with Cassie, spending millions or whatever. And he was like, I was locked up for this amount of time and he didn't, and you give me 50 bands. So that was one thing that I was telling. The second thing that I was telling is, you're saying all this stuff is Diddy. Diddy did you wrong, all this, whatever. But you still stood next to him, and your question and your justification for it was for Belize. If Diddy was the person that you say he was, or everything and your life depend on it, why did you feel like you still needed him for Belize? Not anybody else, but you needed to use Diddy's profile for Belize. My integrity is not going to make me stand next to a man who I morally don't deal with. I morally don't deal with him business-wise, anything like that, just to say it's for my country. Nah, where's the integrity there, brother? Where's the integrity there? I don't understand that. So your stuff, you align with Diddy, when it was beneficial to your cause, when it was beneficial for some money in your pocket, when it was beneficial for what you want to do in politics. But then he get locked up and you're kicking his back end, and then you're kind of taking the foot off the gas on how much you're kicking his back end. So it's like you're throwing him under the bus, but then not throwing him under the bus. And now I don't know where your position is, because he say, well, I say all this, and I always stood my point, and my defense is being that I didn't see Diddy shoot him, but you're kind of dry snitching in a way, because you're saying, well, I took the rap for him. So that's saying that he did shoot. So it's like,
exactly.
I'm confused on what your stance is on it, bro. And then he's saying his position changed.
He literally say that he took the rap for. Yeah, he said that he's a billionaire now, and he wouldn't be a billionaire if I didn't cooperate, or something along those lines. And it's like, so what are you saying?
So and that so that was confusing. The next thing that's confusing is he said what makes him now speak, because Charlamagne asked him the question. I would ask him the same question. Like, when Diddy's locked up, you kicking his back in, like, he didn't say it, malicious wise, but that would have been a question I had, because now I am questioning your integrity, because that is what it seems like. And he's saying the catalyst for that was the Lil Rod thing, when he says Lil Rod mentioned that he bragged about him shooting and Sean taking the blame and all that stuff. And I'm like, and he said, then he's seen a Cassie video, then some of this stuff has to be true. And I'm like, a guy, Lil Rod, who you probably don't even know, he said some stuff. You don't know if it's true or not, but it triggers you to where now you flip suit on this guy you were just standing next to recently. I just don't know where your stance is no more, bro. Like, I don't know where you stand as a man. Damn entertainment, damn all that. Let's talk to you as a man, bro. Your integrity. What you're saying is, I never said I seen him shoot, but if you shot, it would have been a self-defense. But then you say you took the rap from him. What are you taking the rap on him for if you say you didn't see him shoot? So, like I said, I don't understand that. The next thing, you felt some type of way because you felt like he owed you more for you taking the rap, and you seen him spending millions on Cassie, who was his woman at the time, which is crazy. You say, oh, you spent more money on his woman than me, and I'm the one who took. Like, come on, bro. Like, that sounds crazy, but I get it. You did. You took his time, but if you're gonna take his time, by street code, when your man's supposed to make sure you good when you get out, I guess, right? But when we're looking at the dynamics of this, it seems like you act as if he's this bad person, but he's not so bad when you need him to help you in some sense. You're saying it's all for Belize. If it's for my country, I don't even want to stand next to this guy because the optics of that looks bad.
Exactly.
So I'm like, I don't know what position you stand on no more, man. I guess there's no honor amongst thieves, and it's all about money. When that money's there, the benefit is there, I'm standing next to you. When that money and that benefit is not there, then I'm on the hate train with everybody else. And although you're not speaking down on them maliciously, you're still kind of like, in a way.
You're saying you took the rap for him, so basically you're saying that he did this, right? And you didn't, is what it sounds like you're saying. Now, I think one of the things you kind of, touched on this, but it seems very opportunistic when it comes to Diddy. Like you said, whatever he can do for you at the time. And that goes back to even how he said that he was signed. Like, he said Def Jam offered him all of this stuff, but Def Jam wasn't riding high at that moment. He said this is before Jay and DMX got on, and Bad Boy was already riding. So he went with that. Now, you could take that a few ways where, okay, he said he needed the structure. He wasn't structured enough. Or were you trying to ride the Bad Boy wave because at that time, what Puff was able to offer you benefited you? Or you're not the person that somebody like a DMX is that could jump into Def Jam and just change the trajectory if you're everything that you were saying you were in this interview. You know what I mean? That's the confusing part, because for my listeners, my listening ears, and just from what I remember, you guys correct me if I'm wrong in the chat, he signed a Bad Boy, and it seemed because he sounded like Big. And that's how it was kind of presented too. You know what I mean? Like, your Bad Boy, Big's gone, and this is our next artist is on some hardcore shit, and it worked. It was dope. But again, it's back to whatever Diddy can do for you at the time. It's cool, but you saw all of these things allegedly, or saw the person that he was, and you bit your tongue because this was benefiting me and my country as a politician, or whatever it was. Because this is all as recent as like 2 years ago.
Yeah, on the flip, to his point, the documentary dropped today, so I haven't checked out the documentary.
I want to watch it.
But on the interview, he did say these two things. He did say he chose Bad Boy because he said Def Jam, he said what they were rolling out for him as far as these other labels, they wanted him to be, you get this, you get set up, you can start your own label, sign your own artist. He said, I was young, I wasn't ready for that. But he said under Diddy, the tutelage, the things he could teach him, the learning the business aspect, he said he's thankful for Diddy for that. So he did give him credit for that. Yeah. He bigged him up in that sense of learning and all that stuff, but he did say he never seen anything wrong being around Diddy, like any things that he's being accused of. He didn't see those things, in which we wasn't there, we don't know. But in this sense, he mentioned like when they performed together, when they did the Lifetime Achievement thing, he came out and performed with him. And he said, a lot of people saying, oh, you ain't did it because Diddy paid you. And he was like, I didn't get paid from that. He said, at first, when Diddy called me and he told me about this, I was insulted by it. You know what I'm saying? And then he was like, well, then I was thinking about Belize. And, when he came out, they dropped the Belizean flag and all that stuff on the performance. Yeah. And it was more so for my country. And I'm just like, I guess you performing, I'm trying to see the correlation. Because I think the things that may hurt him in a political sense is that past of you being a rapper. The
type of rapper that he was too.
Well, just when you think about Sean as the rapper, you can't help but bring up the Diddy situation. You can't avoid talking about Sean the rapper without talking about the shooting. So I don't think that worked in his favor. But if I get locked up, I take the rap for you. Yes, maybe I am gonna feel entitled to more that you can give me or whatever. So it is gonna be like that. Hey, fuck you, pay me. We ain't got nothing else to talk about, bro. I did this and whatever. But I'm not gonna sit around here and do interviews over something that's done and happened. And you talk, man. And it's like either you got me when I get here, we're gonna do this, or it's gonna be fuck you and all this stuff. Then if you gonna, I'm just saying, pick a side to stay on it. Pick a side to be on and stay there. You feel me? And I just kind of
feel like know what to believe, right? I think that when you think of somebody, like a Diddy, with the mentality of the person like a Diddy has, I don't know what happened that night, and I don't know anything, but just from the outside looking in, you would think that if somebody really did take the rap for that person that is billionaire, shooting up the club, whatever, you would think that just to keep that person quiet, he would make sure that once that person got out, roll out the red carpet, you get whatever you want. It wouldn't be no $50,000 or whatever. So I found it hard to believe that he took the rap in that situation. It's just hard. It's a hard sell because, again, we see that Puff will pay people off, right? We see that Puff will pay folks to shut up. So it's hard for me to believe that he knows that this person knows that he did this and took the rap for him and this and that, and he offered him $50,000. It's hard to believe. You know what I'm saying?
I mean,
that part is hard to believe.
When he got out or something, like he still wanted. He speaks about situations where Diddy tried to make it right. I guess to Sean, it wasn't enough. He's like, man, you owe me your life. And which in a sense,
control, you know what I'm saying? Puff is about control. And I think something that big, he would make sure that he was in control of that situation. You know what I mean?
I just kind of feel like Sean has benefited more than what he's given Puff credit for. Because if it didn't come for you from standing next to him and all that stuff that helped Belize, then I believe that you kind of benefited more in the sense of what you're kind of giving it credit for. I don't know what Diddy gave him on the side, whatever. All we can do is go based off what Sean says, because Diddy ain't out here speaking for it. But it's just like that situation, like I said, he's straddling the fence, and I don't really know what side you stand on. And so it
Yeah.
makes it interesting. And honestly, when I hear him talk on there and he's speaking about that stuff, when he gets to the point of talking about Diddy, you start sounding like all the rest of the politicians, man.
Yeah.
It,
Play in
you
the
really
middle.
you really seem
Saying
like
a
that.
bunch of stuff without
It's
saying anything.
the things that we deem to be bad are the same things we're willing to stand next to when it's a benefit. So it's like, what does that make you? You feel
Yeah.
me?
A
And
politician is what it makes him.
yeah, and so there's a lot of things in that interview that was kind of cool, and then a lot of things in that interview that made me question the character and the integrity. And then there were some things I was just like, the fuck, like how he said how he got the nicknames Poe, from Alpo. He was like, somebody worked at a label used to date him. They said you look like him, and he used to carry himself like him, how he was wild or whatever. So she started calling me Poe, and I'm like, dog, you ran with that? Her calling you another nigga name, like. that
That
was
was another thing I didn't love either, man.
I
When he
don't
kind
know
of was
about that
like,
one, bro.
when he was sitting there saying that he was dating somebody that Diddy was dating, but he didn't want to say her name, and then he said he was dating a pop star that Mace was dating that had a hit out in '97, didn't want to say. Like, come on, man. You really gonna say you gonna really out Brandy? Just go ahead and say it. Just go ahead and say it. Like, what are we talking
Rest
about?
in peace, Clark Kent, but he said Clark Kent mentioned the name in the documentary, her name. So
Okay.
we'll confirm it was
Again,
Brandy.
I guess this is promo to get us to watch the documentary, and I'm gonna watch it. You know what I'm saying? Because I think that we can expound upon this topic even more than we're able to right now, just based off of an interview. I want to see the documentary, but it makes me, when I listen to this interview and it's all over the place and it's clearly from his perspective, it makes me feel like the documentary is not going to be 100%. You know what I'm saying? It's going to be very skewed towards one person's perspective.
Yeah, man. It's like I don't know, bro. I done seen people flip so fast with this Diddy shit. Like we got Meek Mill involuntarily saying no Diddy on video. Nobody even brought him up out of nowhere, like he wasn't wearing matching shirts with this guy. The only people that I say, hey man, Stevie J is holding it down. I see Stevie.
You know what I'm saying? Right or wrong, I respect
everybody.
The fact yeah, I respect the fact that he's just not gonna turn state on his guy. You know what I mean? Like, there hasn't even been a trial yet. You know what I'm saying? And all these people are just flipping. Like, I mean, look, I'm not co-signing anything. I don't know what anybody did, and I'm sure that there's some truth to some of the allegations that are out there, but I will respect the fact that Stevie J is not going to sit there and just, pull a Meek Mill, if you will.
Because I'm looking at it like, man, they're talking. He's talking about like how it triggered him and how this stuff and it changed his life and all this stuff. But like I said, if this was so bad and this stuff was so egregious to you, this person, why? Like I said, it wouldn't have been enough amount of money to get me to stand next to you and benefit anything that's your cause, bro. Just hey, whatever, give me the money and let's call it even at that and do whatever. But no, he still needs that benefit of what Puff could do. And like I said, man, at some point in time, you can't talk about integrity and you're literally going against your what your own words are when you do stuff like that, man. So I don't get it, man. Everybody was loving Diddy. Just it's crazy how things change. Just a year ago, man, it's the Love album, running around with Young Miami. And now it's like Diddy hate train, bro. It's just crazy how
he's toxic at this point.
Crazy how things change, man. So
I mean, even when you look at the Breakfast Club, man, like, that was a whole revolt thing. Diddy would be up there, like that was their boss at that time, and
fair enough. Charlamagne still kind of like they always kind of like shitted on Revolt when being on Revolt. They always kind of underline talked about Revolt with being on there. Oh, we're on this weekend. Oh, I guess we are. Like the way they used to talk about, the Revolt was never like they really liked being on Revolt. So and Charlamagne, I mean. It seemed like he never. It's like he respected Diddy, but I feel like Charlamagne never really liked Diddy in a sense because Diddy handles stuff very well when it comes to that. But I remember like he brought up the Drink Champs joint where the excerpt when he was talking to Fab and he played that for him and Diddy was like, oh, okay. Like then he asked him about the 50 thing. He was like, He really asked 50 you want to go shopping. He was like, thought he needs some clothes. Like I remember that. Like
Yeah.
Charlamagne would poke him and like pause. It'll keep on like trying to find things on him, and like it wasn't really affected him. So I think the respect was there, but I don't think Charlamagne really cared for Diddy. So I don't think they switched it up too much when he was out there. I think the jokes were still there even when he was out. There's a lot of people that was like flipping on like people that was really standing next to him in pictures and being next to him. Now we're seeing them acting like it's crazy. Like when I see Meek, I'm like, yo, this is crazy. Like all they had to do is make you
their pictures that they've had with Diddy off of their social media.
Man, like so it's either that some people are not saying anything at all, or there's people that's gonna speak out against him as if he's a monster. So it's like it's just crazy how stuff go. When you're beneficial, they with you. When there's no benefit no more, then they talk about you like you're scum of the earth. So that's just how it goes, man. Integrity is a thing that is a lost thing for a lot of people.
Yo, shout out to Leroy in the building, man. I saw that interview you did with Blue. Dope interview. Make sure you check that out. It's on the Weekend Rhyme guys that Ron and Leroy did. What was that, yesterday? Yeah. Or was it the day before yesterday? But it's on the channel. Yeah, it was a great interview, man. Shout out to Blue.
Big up, Leroy. That's what's up.
Before we get out of here, Beyoncé is doing the halftime of the Baltimore Ravens, Houston Texans game, Christmas Day on Netflix. What are your thoughts on this? And I've never really heard of a halftime show on Christmas Day. And
we're not used to football on Christmas Day either. So I think in their attempt to keep us engaged with watching on Christmas, because we watch on Thanksgiving, so I think people watch on Christmas.
Basketball on Christmas. Is this attack on the NBA or something?
So yeah, to take away from that, then yeah, if you're gonna do it big. And they went with Beyonce, man. So and isn't it in Houston?
It's gotta be. Yeah, it's gotta be.
Or
it
Texas.
Should be a big deal.
Yeah, so it's a big deal, man. I didn't expect that one. I really didn't. But I'm not surprised when I see it too, So it's like that's big for the NFL. I don't know how hopefully
I know what you're gonna say.
Hopefully Netflix get it under control around then, because it was crazy trying to watch the Tyson joint like that. If the live stream's gonna be like that, people had me laughing. They were saying in the streaming joints that was bootlegging it from was better than Netflix. They said Stream East was better. I was like, yo, it was buffering and shit. I was like, yeah, man.
I thought it was my connection, man. Like I was like, oh man. I kept exiting out and going back in, and it was like in pivotal moments of the fight. Not talking about the Tyson and Jake fight, because then that was whatever. But the undercards were great, I thought.
Yeah, I like what Netflix is doing. I mean, they're gonna have the NFL games on there. Then they're gonna have now WWE is gonna start streaming wrestling from there, like Raw and SmackDown on there. So I like what Netflix is doing as far as live streaming stuff. They just got to get that stuff underway. I don't think they was prepared for the amount of number of people.
They weren't prepared for the onslaught and the bandwidth. They couldn't have been. I think that was the biggest. Crazy. That had to be the biggest event that they ever had. But like you said, if they're gonna do this is Beyonce now. Now I don't know. You think more people are gonna watch this than the Tyson Paul? I don't think.
I don't know. I mean, people are gonna watch football. It's football, you know what I'm saying? But I don't know what this halftime show is gonna do. I'm pretty sure you'll find
things, bro. My bad. Boxing is one of those things, though. I feel like everybody likes. Like, you see people that like, I'm not into football, not into basketball, not into baseball, but boxing. Even if you ain't into boxing, it's just something about the human spirit that wants to see people fight. Everybody will tap into boxing.
But I would say this, I always say there's three things that brings people together. Sports, music, and weed.
Weed? I thought you were gonna say food.
I'm telling you, it don't matter. I'll raise it to everybody. Like
alcohol.
For the smokers, cool. But for the smokers, if there are smokers in there, listen, man. I went to FAMU. I go to that Florida State side. White boys smoke weed too. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like you can connect through all that. Like there's a whole community for that, man. I'm telling you. But music and sports primarily, and these are things that connect people from everywhere, man, in our country,
Yep.
how somebody who doesn't know me and may see me, how are you gonna connect? Hey man, you seen the game or whatever? Like we gonna connect over a game. That's like how a lot of icebreakers happen. And then music, music is universal, man. Like we have certain hip hop artists that other people don't, probably listen to, but there are certain artists as universal. Everybody love Michael Jackson. You know what I'm saying? Everybody,
Yeah.
there's people that love Bob Marley the same.
Yeah.
Music is universal. There's people that just love certain artists as like, music connects everybody. And even if you don't like what I'm listening to, I've been in spots where people just dance to whatever. If it felt good, they just dance or whatever, man. They don't know who the artist is, whatever. It's universal throughout older people, younger people, white, black, whatever you come from. Music connects a lot of people around the world. So, but the
I
thing
do
of
think it's a great move, though. I think this is a big, bold move from the NFL. I'm sure Roc Nation has something to do with this. And I think that this is a way of the NFL being able to take away that Christmas Day from the NBA, because the NBA's ratings, from what I understand, is already suffering. And we don't really have those blockbuster Christmas Day matchups in the NBA like we used to, because I think that the
stars
star
are
power in the NBA right now is in flux. And I think that if the NFL is going to take Christmas Day away from the NBA, this is a perfect time to do it. And if you're going to use somebody as your halftime entertainment, Beyonce's the person to do it.
Hey Mike, I want to get into this too while we're on the music subject, because we can't get up out of here without talking about some new music. And
Okay.
one of the things, even though this album dropped last month, Mike, I have to give love to Big X the plug. I think Big
Oh,
X,
I got to check that out.
the noise that's surrounding that, and being independent, no features, and I'm looking at the samples on there. I'm like, I see how you didn't have any features. The samples on here is crazy. He got a joint where it's sampled after Isley Brothers' "Contagious" that knocks. So
Oh,
Big it dropped last month, but the feedback that I'm getting from it right now, it seems like that shit just dropped like last week, man. Big X is out here and he's moving, dog. Like he's from Dallas, so I like it. I like what Big X is
okay.
doing. I like
I
that
keep
project.
hearing about it. I mean, I finally was able to check out Doche, man, and she's dope.
Oh, Gucci? Yeah.
Yeah, her shit is dope, man. I think that
I
in the
want to.
album of the year conversation as well. So yeah, I'm gonna check out Big X the Plug, Doche. There's another album that I got to check out. Cordae's album too. I
I was
keep
about to
hearing
say
good
that.
things
Cordae's
about
he has my favorite project right now.
that. Okay,
Yeah,
what's
Cordae
good?
has my
A lot
favorite
of music
project
to
right
catch
now.
up on.
The quality is there, the production is great, the features is great. He's I don't know how many features he's got, but I just could think of these three off my head, and I think he's 3 for 3 with Wayne, man. Every feature he does with Wayne is fire. Like I like hearing Cordae with Wayne, like on a record, man. They really do their thing. I like the Kanye influences on Cordae's records too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, some of that early Kanye influence on him. And I just like the records. He got some lines on there that's kind of interesting. Like he dropped the line, that's kind of like shade towards like Trey Songz, and then one out was a Diddy line because he said his mom, he has a record where he talks about his mom and her journey with trying to be in the music industry and how she went on making a band, and she was on the episode where they had them run that mile or something like that, and how it comes. He says it's funny how it kind of, in a sense, how it comes back on Diddy, like look at Diddy now type shit. So it was like,
Everybody thought about to do.
yeah. So I like that line, and then he had a line when it was like something with his son or something. He said raised something along the lines of hope he don't want him to meet somebody like Trey Songz or something like that. Or it's something interesting about, he has little joints when he's talking slick, and I wish I could bring up the lyrics so I could say it verbatim, but he has some joints on there. I was like, oh, he talking that shit too. But Cordae spitting, man, his stories on there, the lyricism, the production, The features, like I said, the features is great. I like Cordae's album, man. That's one of my favorites for this year.
Okay, which one should I listen to first? Big X Plug or Cordae?
Listen to Cordae at home. Listen to Big X when you're in the car somewhere. You out. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
Like I feel
I'm
like
listen to Big X first then.
yeah. 'Cause I feel like that Big X, man, they just ride, man. Like that's one of them joints. You on a road trip or something, throwing that Big X. Or you heading out somewhere throwing that Big X. It rides, man. Like that is he did it. Hey, he did it on that album. And then, but that Cordae it's a polished, really good project, man. I really like that Cordae album, man. It's dope to me.
All right, man. Hit like and subscribe, y'all, man. Appreciate y'all. What's up?
I said before all that, I was still on the Freddie Gibbs.
Oh yeah, Freddie's album is heavy. All right, man. Hit like and subscribe, man. We appreciate y'all rocking with us today, man. We had a lot to talk about, but I think Monday we'll let's recap on some of this music, and because I got a lot of homework to go listen to all of these records, and I think we need to really start parsing out the best projects of this year.
Yeah, the fourth quarter. This fourth quarter has been it didn't disappoint me because it was looking bad, but this fourth quarter, there's some good projects coming out of this fourth quarter. If I get Tyler, I get Cordae, I get Big X, I get Dre and Snoop. Hey man, I'm cool with that.
There it is. All right, man. Mic check. Holla at y'all next week.